Tony Dunn. Ain't nothing to it but to do it, brother. Let's roll.
In a world where Carolina Panthers fans have an insatiable thirst for Panthers news and opinions, only one podcast roars ferociously. It's the C3 Panthers Podcast.
I guess it feels like Groundhog's Day up in here as the countdown hit twice. Tony self-producing the show. Cody Lashney is not here tonight. Turns out, you'll find out, he did not want us to tell you. He's at the ballet. Flew there tonight for a reason we'll disclose later. It's the C3 Panthers Podcast, brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com, where every Tuesday night we chop up the latest Panthers news and opinions from the fan perspective. My name's Tony Dunn. Tonight's show is a fun one. I see a red jersey and I want it painted black. Wait, maybe I should do that better. I see a red jersey and I want it painted black. Oh, this is not the Rolling Stones. The Carolina Panthers have changed their practice jersey when it comes to the quarterback position. I wonder if it'll stick when they start hitting. But right now, they painted it black like the Rolling Stones wanted to paint that door. We'll be talking about that. We'll be talking about what the heck Steve Smith was saying. Holy cow. Man, what could he have been saying? We've got rumors. We've got Brian Burns potentially dating Taylor Swift. I'm not investigating it. I just want to believe it's true. I don't care if it's not, and I don't care if I'm spreading disinformation. We'll be talking about Bashard Breeland. Remember him? Oh, my gosh. His foot fell off, and he was going to be the savior of the Carolina Panthers secondary. His foot fell off, and we got Dontari Poe and Old real quick in 2018, I believe. I think they'll go that far back. And we're going to be looking into holes. Your holes on this roster. The number's 252-228-5098. We want to get your take on the Carolina Panthers. Tell us what you want to talk about it. It's the people's voice. And guess who else we're here? The people gotta speak. CK, man, they love to hear you speak.
Listen, it's been a long week of absolutely nothing happening for the Carolina Panthers, but happy to be here talking about it with you guys. And Tony, I'll tell you what, there's so many things that could have been taken as like different things that you just said there.
Oh no, what did I say?
Let's look into some.
We're looking the holes.
Yeah, we're gonna look into the holes. And it was really, it just wasn't. This was a very interesting start to the podcast tonight.
Hey,
So,
I'm missing my wheel, man. I'm missing my wheel, man, and I feel lonely. It makes it so much easier for me to just get my chi together, have Cody push the live button, and come in. But hey, nobody's perfect. I'm certainly not perfect, but the C3 Panthers podcast is perfect on Tuesday night. CK, hope the baby is well.
Baby's good, man. Baby is good. We can't complain. She's not sleeping fantastic, but we're gonna get through it.
You will. Greg, the bat daddy, the stat daddy, the man of many talents, the man of many hobbies. He's the only guy that makes me go, man, I'm glad I didn't do that extra hobby because I take up one too many things. Greg takes up like 12 too many things.
Yeah. Well, my problem is like you can always, if you find the skill to do it, save money and have a better time creating things yourself, no matter what you're doing as far as building, as far as homework around your house, constructing stuff with a 3D printer. And once you learn how to do that, things become so much cheaper and you can have so many better things. And I'm kind of like that. I love to learn how to do something. And then I kind of get bored. I'm like, okay, I got this skill. Let's go do something else. But yeah, you're right. It's a great hobby. I've gotten past the hammer last week, so I'm really, really
now you're making what, lightsaber stands or something?
No, I'm in the
like wristband cuff.
Yeah, gauntlets, arm gauntlets. Yeah, I'm in the process of making a custom Mandalorian costume.
Wasn't it Xena, the warrior princess, that had those?
Man, so many of them have me. Yeah, Xena did, I think. So, but yeah, it's fun. I'm having a good time with that. I moved the printer into the other room so the wife doesn't have to kill me now for being beside her all the time because it runs all the time.
Oh man, you do that? Oh gosh, yeah. My wife would murder me if I I used to do this podcast like in the bedroom, or you would I would hang. This is actually, if you go back and look at some of the old shit, I used to I just tacked a Carolina Panthers blanket on the wall behind me, and I would carry my all-in-one computer into the room and set it up temporarily for the night, because we had kids in a very small house, and you got to try to find the one little nook that was quiet. But hey, I'm the same way, except for Greg, is that you learn this is time is expensive, and you probably spent like 9 million hours.
Yeah, it's definitely, I find in my older age that everything I'm doing is time. Like I'm playing games like No Man's Sky, and like I'm playing mobile games that are like real-time games. I'm doing these things that take 4 days to print. Like everything I do is like time consuming, but you don't have to pay attention the whole time. It's just it's going to take this long to do it, so you've got to wait.
CK, as a gamer, as someone who does love video games, I mean, you're a true game lover. Is it changed at all? For like, the one thing that is different for me is like I could play a video game for 4 hours when I was 11. And now if I play for like 30 minutes, I'm like, shit, should have been working on the podcast. Should have, like, the time to play and even learn the game sounds like, it's like the idea of like, is by the 45 minutes it takes me to learn the game feel of it, I'm like, man, I'm so tired of this shit. I gotta go.
Well, and I've I don't know, there's a certain reward to video games that it's hard to get anywhere else, right? Like the idea of doing the podcast and working on that certainly is going to have a reward basis to it, but it usually isn't going to be as immediate or impactful, like immediate or as big of an impact as, like, spending an hour on a video game, because typically you're making some progress in that video game, and in real life things like creating a podcast and trying to grow that, that's going to take time, and there is no shortcutting that. So
no dopamine hit on that one.
Right.
All right. Cody Lashney is not here tonight, so we got to do the best to honor him as he's at the ballet. Cody Lashney, he's the man of the people. Actually, I'll say that. He is the people's champ. No. Yeah. He has a damn army behind him. Right. And he loves to shout out Carolina Panther fans. So I'm going to go ahead and give them their due. Everybody loves to hear it. Stephen Veach, the Cardiac Cat 13, Lawrence Trevette, C3, D's Ill Skills brand ambassador, Anthony Picarello, Keep Poundin', Justin D. Young, Rockhead 81, My Bastard Son, White Chocolate Espresso, Tim Estes Supreme, Lita, Panther Pickle, the old angry man on the podcast. Panther Pickle reminds me of this old man once that told me, he said, I was wrong once. I said, what? You were only wrong once? He said, yeah, if you're thinking I was wrong. Panther Pickle in the house. Man, welcome you guys. Matt, M, J, F, Civic, X704. Keep pounding. Thank you guys for being a part of the C3 Panthers podcast. The number's 252-228-5098. Smash the thumbs up button. Be a part of the show. Let's go ahead and get into tonight's episode. I see a red jersey and I want it painted black. The Carolina Panthers have announced, or I guess they're in OTAs, and it looks like they have switched the quarterback jersey. Oh my gosh, my voice broke. Quarterback jersey to black. So this is the non-hit jersey, but don't worry, they're not hitting at all. It looks and is in line with the color scheme. This is where we're at in the preseason. This is where we're at in the football season. We start the show with saying this is Bryce Young's wearing a black jersey. CK, was it controversial? I kind of wanted to name the show. Hold on, how was I going to write it? Panthers make black quarterback jersey. Like, so I was gonna, because people aren't gonna read the whole thing. So you say, if you just said black quarterback jersey, and they're like, what? But they're like, Panthers are all in on black quarterback jersey. That's it. That was the joke.
I mean, it seemed, I don't see a point. Like, I don't understand the reasoning behind it. They say that it goes, is it because it goes better with the color scheme? Because it does look better. It definitely looks better. I'll agree with
Well,
that.
the red jersey is meant, Greg, to say "Don't hit me."
Yeah,
Right,
it's meant
Like,
to be
you're
easily
untouchable,
identified. It's
but they're
supposed to
not hitting it.
contrast.
Nobody's got pads on, so
Right.
Yeah,
no one's getting hit. Period. So
true.
what they're saying is why are we making these three guys look like dorks over here? Screw the Falcons in the red. Let's get them in black and make these black quarterbacks cool.
Right. Yeah, I think
Black quarterback jersey, I meant.
I think at this point, it's just a matter of we can't be making Bryce Young look like he's an Atlanta Falcon. So
Do you think black? Oh well, black is slimming, isn't it, CK?
Black is slimming.
you know,
Put
maybe
him in
yeah.
white and make them look bigger.
Man. Well, maybe they also the other part of this could be, and this is just me blowing smoke. We saw how the internet reacted to seeing Bryce Young with those linemen, but now it'll be a lot harder to spot him if he's not got a different jersey than everybody else. Now, I don't know if that's the case. It looks like there's some blue behind him, so don't know if that's accurate or not, but that could be the case here.
Do you think they were tired of the elf on the shelf jokes?
I think people that aren't Bryce Young are irritated by it. I think Bryce Young has gotten it so long that it's just irrelevant to him.
Look at Panther Pickle. He's so crazy. Man, that's crazy. He's a crazy old
This is
man.
my mom.
Shut
And
up.
this is my dad. And this is me. And my life is crazy.
Yeah, so I guess that's pretty cool to talk about. Tell us if that matters. I'm interested to see if they do this in training camp. I don't think when they start putting pads on that they'll do this. I think they'll put them back in red, like, no questions. Like,
1,000%.
unless you made everybody else in blue and white, but you don't want to put nobody in black in Spartanburg. That's going to be hot there. Oh, also, if anybody knows Muscles Marinara's
I can't remember his name of his sub shop.
yeah, we need to know his sandwich shop because I
Mhm.
got some cool ideas. I want to give him some free advertisement on our Spartanburg prep as we continue to prep for that time. I've got some ideas of how we can use him as free advertisement then to court paid advertisement later. So anybody, you guys, the Army, go ahead and find out what that sub shop name is. I wanted to bring this up real quick, and we're not going to do it right now. This is for later in the show.
Okay.
But the number's 252-228-5098. I stole this picture. I'm sure somebody's going to be like, where's the attribution? I think it was Mike K or somebody like this. But I'm not using it to report, so I'm straight thieving this. But I'm thieving this for my own reasons. I want us to tell the story that Steve Smith is telling these guys right now. Kind of the wrong answers tweet you see on the internet. It's like when they put the picture up and they're like, wrong answers only. But we can't say wrong answers only because they're all wrong. We don't know what the answer is. So we want to call in to the show at 252-228-5098 and tell us what Steve Smith was telling the guys at this moment. Matt Corral cracked up in the background. Was he saying, did you hear that Brian Burns could be dating Taylor Swift? I saw this tweet today. It says, now, and I did not track anything after this because I was like, this is exactly what I needed today. I text my son. My son does not care about anything that I care about. Nothing. Like, it's like, so he is the least interested in the Carolina Panthers that you could be interested in. He doesn't even love my ECU Pirates. They're his second favorite team. He likes the Georgia Bulldogs like his grandparents do. But he loves some Taylor Swift. I sent him a message and I said, how's it feel to have your girlfriend stolen by Brian Burns? And then I didn't, and he actually talked to me today about it. And then he thought I was dumb. He also thought, Dad, this is the stupidest shit you've ever talked to me about. Obi, the Panthers fan in Texas, says NFL All-Star, unnamed, but puts a picture of Brian Burns up, and newly single Grammy Award winner Taylor Swift are now reportedly dating. Was Steve Smith saying, holy shit, did you hear that Brian Burns is dating Taylor Swift? Could he have been saying that? Or was he saying, Holy shit. Did you hear that you could fast for 40 days on just water? Today, I learned that Russell Okung, who we know has been shedding weight like crazy, he's on this crazy spiritual journey at this point. Not crazy. I shouldn't say crazy. He's on a spiritual journey. This mug went on a 40-day fast of water only.
Wow.
I didn't know you could survive 40 days without eating.
I mean, I know you can do it with just liquids. I know you can do a beer fast because beer has stuff in it that
He
you need to
only had
survive,
water
but
for
I've never heard of
40
water.
days.
That's
He's
crazy.
still alive. Somebody said today. All right, so I said that in the creator chat, CK.
Yeah.
I said, I didn't know you could live this long.
Yeah.
And the guy goes, oh yeah, my dad did this like 2 or 3 times growing up. I was like, what the fuck? How in the world is this the one place I go, oh, this? He's like, yeah, my dad did this.
I know the circumstances are different, but when I see Naked and Afraid or like Alone, and I see what these guys look like after like 20 days
True.
of eating something, not even
like
eating
slugs.
Right. They're eating stuff. Like they're not even not eating. They're actually eating things, but they're also putting a lot of like burning a lot of calories, trying to build stuff and go out there. So it's a little bit different, but that part of me, that's the first thing I jump to is I see how much money, I mean, how much weight these people lose, not eating barely anything, but not just, still eating something to survive. And I cannot fathom it. Like he looks like he's still got
loss. This was
problem.
not weight loss journey though, CK. When you do something like this, it's like bodhisattva. It's you're like trying to be like Patrick Swayze in Point Break or.
But here's my concern, right? This is, I'm not saying concern. I'm not saying he's lying, but the what we see on the right looks like he's still got plenty of muscle mass, right? 40 days of not eat or 60 days or however long it was, 40 days of not eating would have eaten a lot of your muscle mass as well. It feels like.
This
and I don't think
is not after the fast. This was actually just after his weight loss journey before the fast.
Right. So I would be interested to see what he looked like after, because it's no shot in the world that he's going to have any type of muscle mass after
what
that.
we can do is there is a tweet out there. Let me find it.
Well,
of him talking about this. Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama, the real Buddha. In his journey, right? So he leaves the palace and then he goes and sees suffering. He sees the sick person, the dead person, the old person, and the dead person. And then he leaves his princely life and goes, and he becomes an ascetic originally before what he then develops is Buddhism, which is the middle way, which is about balance. But he learned, in sense, what he kind of learned the middle way, or nirvana, achieved it, was by having the most in riches and then having nothing, because he went on this journey where he denied himself, like he drank his own pee. At one point he lived on one single grain of rice a day and stood for hours on one foot and slept on a bed of nails and meditated intensely. And then he realized, wait, that's overkill. Like I went too far on this.
You're
a little bit.
overkill.
Just a little
then
bit.
he finds the middle path. But this is like, when you do this, you're not trying to lose weight. You're on a psychological test quest.
I think so.
So that's pretty wild. I mean, again, Steve Smith is like, I mean, imagine jeez. That's how I looked today when I was like 40 days with no food. I thought you could go 3 days with no water and like 2 weeks without any food. Did not realize. Yeah. Do you think Brian Burns is dating Taylor Swift?
I have no idea. I've heard that it's Aaron Rodgers is to be there's been rumors about that, but that seems a bit, I wouldn't say far-fetched, because like he is he's pretty old, but Taylor Swift technically is probably close to 30, if not 30 already. So it's possible that it could be Brian Burns. But
oh yeah, man, she's somebody said that he was at the draft, or he got drafted when the draft was in Nashville.
Dude,
and that's how they met. That's what I saw one person say. Here is Russell Okung actually talking about, I think he is talking about the fast here. You guys hear this?
I was going through a transition. I'd committed my life, 30 years, to a craft, honing it, shaping it, attempting to be the
I'll hear it.
best.
Mhm.
These accolades, I wanted it all. I would soon find out it was all empty.
Very Buddha.
Didn't matter. It was nothing. I didn't have a relationship with my wife, with my children. I didn't even know who I was. So I prayed, asked for guidance, wisdom, and it came to me. I knew at that very moment there was one answer: fasting. Long term, water only, fasting. I
Maybe
did
this is the pick.
it. 40 days, no food, only water. And now it's time to do it again. There's more. I know there's more. There's more for the society, for the world, for our families. Everything can be different.
He's starting a cult, dude.
That's what I was about to say. This sounds very concerning with regards to him doing it again. Like he's got
Yeah.
nothing left to be able to do this with.
Well, what's the end game? Like whenever he goes into this with like almost a religious aspect, which is fine. I understand people have an awakening, people have things, but like the answer to what you're saying is fasting. Okay, for how long?
It's mental discipline, I think.
Okay.
I think another thing, which is, and look, there's real. My mom's super Catholic, and there's a lot of like different groups of Catholic monks and priests and things that do some hardcore denial stuff. But and like, there's also ones who didn't. Oh, Jane. The idea though is that like going without takes like a mental and psychological and spiritual commitment.
Mm-hmm.
And and then it comes, then you, in that process too, you learn how blessed you are, right? Like that's when you start to appreciate food. Like, you know what I'm saying? Is like when you eat at a buffet and it becomes gluttonous America at Golden Corral, you don't like you're not in tune with what sustenance is, what the purpose of food and life, and you're undisciplined. And man, you know, is that discipline does bring you, I mean, all of the super spiritual people, whether it was Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, and who's the last one? Confucius, maybe I'm looking for, who was more of a philosopher. They were all interested in behavior.
Right.
They weren't really telling you what to believe. They told you what to do. And a lot of it was not about excess, right? And the American capital, you know, I mean, it sounds hippie, but I tell you this, I got a plan, guys. I got a plan. Russell Okung, we got to first join him in his cult. And we got to pump it up right around the time that Aaron Rodgers comes and does these joint practices. Plant the seed for Aaron Rodgers. And then around the time, don't we play the Jets in like week 14, 15?
No, I don't think we play the Jets. Other than preseason. In preseason we do, but I don't think we have because I mean,
we don't play the AFC East. No, we don't play Buffalo. We play Miami.
Yeah, I think Miami might be just one of the random
play the Jets at all. Somebody pull up the schedule and look for that. Okay. Well, I was gonna say if we got them on the schedule, then we could around that time somehow get Aaron Rodgers to go on his spiritual quest of fasting. And
I don't think he'd be able to do that mid-season, though.
Have no energy for the game with the Carolina Panthers.
I see what you're trying to do.
We need to sabotage him. We want to get him first. We already got him trying to go and party and live the college life at Wofford, which for some reason I don't feel like Wofford is a college party town. I mean, it's Spartanburg, but college, should I say?
Right. It doesn't look like we play the Jets this year.
Okay. Never mind.
preseason.
All right.
The Lions are the one that we played twice, which I thought was odd. I don't remember the last time I saw us play the Lions in preseason or anybody in preseason and in the regular season. So that's going to be an interesting thing we can maybe have a conversation about.
You know, the thing that irritates me is, you know, we all, and I guess I'm a low hanging fruit joke guy on the internet too. I'll go after the easy joke. But one of the things that people love to say is anytime Okung is doing anything, they're like, all that money he lost with Bitcoin. And like, so the first thing I saw was somebody say, oh, he's fasting because all that money he lost in Bitcoin. He took his 1 year salary with the Carolina Panthers, $13 million, and he got paid in Bitcoin at the time. The Bitcoin then ran to $64,000 at one point.
He might have sold it then.
Could have.
Yeah.
Could have taken some off the table. But I calculated this at the time. I think I read a story on it for CarolinaCatChronicles.com, and that was that Okung bought it. He got paid when it was worth $24,000 a Bitcoin. So people want to talk about Bitcoin tanking. He's technically still up, even if he just left it in there. I said 25 right now. There's no way at 64K he didn't take some off the table. You know, he was that year, it ran that year that he got paid. Like it went kind of nutso.
Right.
And he was the highest paid player in the NFL.
Yeah.
If you counted what Bitcoin was worth. I saw somebody today, we were talking in the creator chat, CK, they said Dogecoin got to 70 cents.
Yeah.
That hurt you, Greg?
It did, man. Dogecoin was actually the first crypto that I got into, and I bought it when it was just the tiniest little amount, and I had like 30,000 shares, right? And I
like
just
$3.
I just got tired of holding it. Yeah, it was so cheap. Just got tired of holding it, and I sold it 2 days before it exploded.
Before Elon Musk flipped the market.
Yeah, 2 days before it exploded.
Well, it's crushed now. I got up there. It's at 6 cents or something.
Yeah, it's crushed now, but I would have sold then easily, you know.
How did CK? How did Elon Musk get away with that shit?
I mean, it's no. I don't think he
doesn't do anything.
Yeah, I mean, how's it any different than anybody else doing that? You know, I don't think
it's not regulated. I guess. I mean, he came out and said, "Hey, Tesla's gonna take this shit."
I mean, they might have. I mean, they did end up in doing that. It's not as though anything changed there. It'd be more concerning if he owned Dogecoin and he was doing this.
He did.
But no, what I mean by that is own the actual entirety of the right.
He was
like he might have invested in it, but that, you know, it's no different. Quite honestly, it's no different than what Trump did, and we don't know that he actually invested in anything. But odds are, you know, he would tweet and you would see markets crash, and then the next day he would tweet again and it would come right back up, and it was just like, there's no way somebody's not taking advantage of it. We've seen the politicians do it for years, so no, I don't think Elon Musk did anything wrong.
Yeah, I agree.
I heard that I heard David Tepper was buying the C3 Panthers podcast. Go ahead and get in on the ground level of that by smashing the thumbs up button, hitting the subscribe, hit that little bell notification, call in at 252-228-5098. Can even consider being a C3 super fan. Small support goes a long way of the show. $1.99 a month through YouTube gets us about 60% of that. Don't worry. So you're really giving YouTube 40 cents or so or more than that, but you can find some ways to donate in the show notes. But the way that you can continue to support the show is with your time, with your energy, with your brains and your interest. Share it with a friend. I saw this, guys, 2023 NFL All Breakout Team defense, Bucky Brooks, scout. I like Bucky Brooks a lot. He's one of these analysts, played at UNC Chapel Hill. And so he played in the league too. Super smart guy. It's one of those guys that they always talk about, like this analyst can become a GM, or at least they used to. His name was floating around in those circles. Maybe that guy who used to cover the NFL draft that went and became Las Vegas GM screwed it up for these types of guys. That white guy, who was he? He's the one that drafted
Mayock.
Leland Farrell or whatever.
Mayock.
Yeah,
Mike Mayock.
Mike Mayock. Maybe he ruined it for people like Bucky Brooks, but Bucky Brooks, I always like I like a lot of his takes. He said this as he talked about players that he thinks that on the defensive side that could break out, make some noise. He listed 2 Carolina Panthers and Jaycee Horn, Derrick Brown. Derrick Brown, I hate every time I say this because I'm like, oh, I've been saying this, because then it feels like I'm like trying to convince you guys that my opinions matter. I was never down on Derrick Brown, though. Like, a lot of people found it easy to dump on him when Matt Rule threw him under the bus.
Right.
Didn't start him that game. And they were like, well, he's a great player, but he needs to learn how to practice and take his notes better or whatever the hell he was saying. Derrick Brown has played in every game since he was drafted. He plays a position that is unsexy. And he's a guy that was bigger than Russell He's bigger than Russell Okung was. It's not a sexy look, but it's an important position on the team. He's been an important addition to the team. The team has only gotten better since we drafted Derrick Brown. In fact, I would argue that Derrick Brown has probably made has made a bigger difference to this team than Jaycee Horn has at any point. But Jaycee Horn has been a very good player for this defense when he's been available. He said today, I can't help bone breaks. Bucky Brooks interested in this defense. Jaycee Horn, Derrick Brown. How do you feel about Jaycee Horn and Derrick Brown? You guys pick your poison, who you want to talk about.
I mean, I'm happy with talking about Jaycee Horn. I mean, it's been a question of availability, and I know that's the problem. He played just 3 or 4 games his rookie season, and then he was. It wasn't even that he got hurt multiple times last year as well. So I mean, that injury plague aspect to his career is a real conversation that we have to have.
Luck.
I mean, it might be bad luck, but I mean, how many players have that same bad luck, and we call them injury prone too?
He got his injury in that Houston game. Do you remember on that turf non-contact? There was a couple of people that got hurt in that game.
Right.
That was the game. I really think that I think we won that game. Actually, we started 3-0 with Sam Darnold, and then we lost on the road next to Dallas. Oh, I remember I took so much heat on the podcast because I came out and said we didn't deserve to win the game. We didn't play well, and somehow we pulled it out at the end, and people were mad. And I was like, this is suspect. And then we went and got blown out in Dallas. But he had that foot break. But then last year, CK, he got a friendly fire injury or something.
There were a couple, but
this guy's some milk.
It was his wrist, I think, this time, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I know that it stinks because like this shit is half happenstance.
Right.
You know, it's like you can get in a car accident and be a good driver.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, it's like and that's what I think he's saying. And I don't know how to say someone is injury prone truly a fair term? Is it loaded?
It's never fair.
Right.
I don't think it's ever fair. I think if somebody might just have really bad luck, and that it by itself is not a fair situation. But by the other piece, there is a part of this that comes into play where you have to start talking about the impact that's going to have to their ability to play well, right? It's not even that they're easily going to be injured necessarily, but you know, there's sometimes, I mean, you talk about what happened with Thomas Davis. I mean, the fact that he got another opportunity is an outlier. It's not something that happens often.
Mm-hmm.
So he got an opportunity when he shouldn't normally get an opportunity. So I mean, to me, I don't think that there's anything necessarily wrong with saying injury prone, but I do understand your point is to say that it's not a fair thing to just say that somebody's injury prone because of
you just have bad luck. I think
Right.
you're right. Is you're not injury prone as much as just bad luck as that we're hitting. Somebody, I think White Chocolate, I think Kev said in the chat Greg. He said bone breaks are different than ligaments. So trying to find a silver lining in this. I'll tell you one thing is I accidentally and with terribly bad luck broke my thumb a few years ago.
No.
In 2020. And I had to get surgery. I had to get screws put in. They put 5. I mean, just first of all, your thumb turns out to be a motherfucking important digit on your
Yeah.
hand.
Right.
They did a great job with all the surgery. Is incredible. All of that, and I healed pretty well. But my shit still is not the same.
Yeah.
Right. Sorry, it never will be the same. Like, I mean, I think Tommy John surgery is the only way people are improved right now, or fake tits. Those are the only surgeries. What other surgeries improve you? Kidney transplant?
Just for the sake of it? Is it? You mean just for the sake of it? I don't know.
Like where you get a surgery where it's like you come out actually better.
I don't think
the time is like if you have a knee surgery or back surgery, it might help
remove a tumor.
It might help your problem, but you're never better than when you were actually healthy.
That makes sense. Okay, yeah, I got you.
I mean, until you start doing the augmented, including technology into your body, there's not really a surgery that's going to make you better than you were prior.
Well, fake tits will enhance you.
No,
have you ever touched
just in the eye of the beholder, though? Not necessarily. No. You're not necessarily physically healthier when you get.
You remove, and I could be wrong, but you also impact the ability to do the things that you were naturally supposed to be created for, which is breastfeeding. So
that's a fair point.
But what if you don't want to have babies no more? And half the people don't want to breastfeed anyway after a month.
Yeah.
Well, there's some information that I would recommend people look up, saying that if you breastfeed for the first 12 months at least the first 12 months, your children are 37% more likely to have high test scores and 25% less likely to fail English.
I hope that is corollary, but hey, I mean,
there's a debate on whether that's causation or correlation.
I'm sure it does have something to do. It does affect sense. I guess you know what? Who does it improve it for? Right? It might improve it for the partner, not the person, the sensation. Who knows? I've never even touched one. I don't know. I've never touched fake food. I do. It's on my bucket list. Somebody put in here, why did we get our tonsils taken out back in the day? I actually, you know what? I found, thank you for helping me with my own logic. I had sinus surgery, like for chronic sinusitis when I got health insurance. Like when I got a job and got health insurance, I finally started like go to the dentist and fucking take preventative care shit. And I got my shit roto-rootered. It helped my life. It did. Yeah. It improved the quality of my life. I was like, wait a second. I'm supposed to be able to breathe like this? Never knew that. 29 years into my life, 30 years into my life. Didn't know that y'all smelled like shit.
Well, hey, y'all we talked about Jaycee Horn with this, but I do want to talk about Derrick Brown too, because while I think Jaycee Horn, I agree, is poised for a breakout as long as he doesn't get injured, Derrick Brown is looking good. Like I'm looking at his stats. Dudes hasn't missed a game.
I told you.
He started every game except for one since he's played. He's gone up in combo sacks, solo tackles, assists, tackles for losses, quarterback hits. Every season he goes up and increases interceptions, every single stat.
Yeah.
I think this might be a breakout year for him.
I don't know why people have been hard on him, to be honest. Like, it's
not flashy.
It's because he's a tackle. I mean, here's the thing:
is people that are hard on him and CK are supposed to know football. Half the time, these people are the guys that supposedly know all this shit, and they're like,
well, the problem is that they see defensive tackle and they look across the board and they look at defensive tackles and then they start to compare. Well, the problem is you can't compare Derrick Brown to Aaron Donald. I'm sorry, you cannot do that. Right. They are two different people, two different complete playing styles. Aaron Donald is not going to be
positions too, honestly.
But look at how dominant Aaron Donald can be if you can have a guy that's good at that position. Sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead, CK.
No, I agree. I think that there's so many things that go into this. I think Brown, the fact that he got his 5th-year option picked up should speak volumes to the fact that Chase Young didn't get his 5th-year option picked up. Like, let's be real about some things. Derrick Brown is a dog, and he deserves to have the contract. Hopefully, that's going to be negotiated here soon.
It's not the sexy of the two positions. When we say the interior tackles, you got usually they like to put a big boy like the star.
Mm-hmm.
But here's some trivia for you. Who posted more sacks than any other interior lineman in Panthers history? 32.5.
Hmm.
So it would be it's a D tackle, a disruptive sack monster. Anybody? Bueller?
What?
Defensive tackle, more like Aaron Donald, less like in fact, here's your hint. Less like Star, more like
not Star. Who's the other guy that drafted with him?
guy I
K1
love.
short.
Yeah.
Short, yeah.
K1. I want to get him on the podcast. Sideshow Rob had a good guess, Chris Jenkins. You know what? He was arguably the best defensive tackle in Panther history. Not the problem. He went on and had a very, very good career too with the Jets. So if he would have continued to play, K1 was great, but his moments was shorter than I wanted it to be. Is like he really balled out from 13, 14, 15,
Right.
and was pretty good in the 16. But after 2016, disappear.
Well, I think that speaks to the exact thing we're talking about. Is that the reason that Derrick Brown doesn't look like he's doing anything better is because he's not had that running guy, the guy to run beside him that's going to be able to take the attention off of him on the interior. I think that
clearly he didn't have his Star Latu. Well, he didn't have his K1 short, actually.
He didn't have his K1 short. He didn't have he's had nobody at tackle. I mean, name I'm sure you can name the tackles, but I mean, tell me who would be a starter on any other team on our that started, at tackle beside him.
Nobody would be a starter. Can you name one? I got one in my head, and he's just a fan favorite rather than good.
Morgan Fox?
No, I think he plays more D. I think he can play both. I would call him a defensive end.
Okay.
The McCall guy. McCall. He's big. He kind of looks like he reminds me of Vince Wilfork a little bit.
Yeah. But yeah, agreed. I think that's more just fan favorite than really producing at a high level.
Yeah, because we've had guys we always have been trying to find this 6th round dude or 4th. We've
never really invested that.
Yeah, who is it? We've got a couple of them that they have one kind of good season their rookie year. They've been a 6th round pick.
I mean, I would say this is probably the first year that they've invested at a pretty, I know Shy Tuttle isn't like a needle mover, but he was at least a starter on another team. Morgan Fox, I think, was technically a tackle, though, in our defense. I could be wrong. I feel like I remember him being a tackle. Who was it that they got last year? He's still on the team, I think, right?
There's
a tackle.
Every year we get a rookie that's in the 6th. We got one from Baylor one time.
Matt Ioannidis, that's the other one. Yeah, that was thinking about from last year.
That's still more. I feel like both of those kind of are they might be able to play some tackle,
right?
But are more kind of defensive tackle. Hold on, there's a couple of guys. Help me out. They are 6th round picks. We used to have. Hold on, I'll get you right here. Hold on. Nose tackle. No, do we not have them anymore?
Who is it?
Help me out. 6th round pick from Baylor. Right now, our nose tackles are Shy Tuttle, Marquand McCall, Joe Penasini. Don't know him. Bravion Roy. That's who it is.
Yep.
Bravion Roy was kind of somebody that, and this is the guy that I hate. I liked him, but we always try to find these discount players there.
Yeah, they just haven't worked out yet. And the other part of this is we might be able to attest that to the fact that even though Phil Snow, on paper looked like he was running a really good defense, still was running such a it was so volatile. There was no consistency on our defense. One week we would be run stuffing and doing an incredible job there, and then the next week we'd let them set franchise records on us running the ball.
It felt fugazi at times.
Yeah, so I mean, I think it felt like a blind, what is it, blind clock or no, blind horse finds water is sometimes or something like that.
All the pieces are there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey,
So,
can I ask real quick, Coney? Because that actually brings up a good question for me with the comment you just made a moment ago about like a player that you're just how did you put it? A throwaway pick, like you don't expect to have a starter whenever you like. At what positions on the field do you feel like you could just waste on a guy you don't ever expect to start? Like, are there certain ones you can't do that with?
Kind of ones. No, I think you try to find some big fat boys. I think they're good ones to do.
Okay.
Like guards are good.
I mean, like if you're looking for a diamond in the rough,
in the back end, like you can't get super skill. It's really hard, I think, to nail the super skill positions like like a corner or a wide receiver. You can get a backup quarterback late.
Yeah.
Well, might be able to get a running back in the 4th, 5th, or 6th. But that's where I don't like having a ton of picks. Is having 3 5th-round picks even good?
No, but here's the way I look at it: is I think that you can invest a kind of throwaway player into any position on the team. It's just that when I draft this guy in the 6th round, if he ends up being a diamond in the rough, awesome. But I'm not pacing my future on him doing that.
Sure.
And I think that's where it kind of goes. I think you base 1, 2, maybe even round 3 on guys who are going to be 1 and 2, definitely guys who are going to be starters and play for this team. Everybody else you're just kind of throwing the dice at. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But I feel like for me, that's positionless as far as what you would waste a pick like that on. It's not wasting a pick. You never know where you're going to find these guys.
I don't care about. Yeah. Defensive tackle, guard.
Yeah, but what if you find the guy there?
Yeah, that's why you do it with those. Yeah. That's why you take those later flyers and you hope that they turn out to be somebody, is like all of a sudden the receiver going to be. I mean, maybe sometimes you can find these diamonds in the rough, but as they brought that up, I asked fans today, I think I'm going to start doing this more on the day of the show. So look on our Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, Carolina Cat Chronicles, Instagram, wherever we try to put everything, where I try to find a way to get some energy to post on all these damn platforms. But I want to ask you guys, it's a good time for me to ask you guys what you want to talk about, right? So I asked the fans, like, hey, what do you guys want to discuss this week in a slow news cycle? And one of the people, and I'm going to start doing a better job of grabbing their tweets too and featuring those in the show. I've got one coming up in a moment. But they asked, where are the holes on this? I'm going to find them real quick where are the holes on this team? Like, we're excited. And this is something, and I forget at times as a host of the show and someone who runs the Twitter account, someone who runs the website, who's always talking with my friends about this, is like, sometimes this feels like old news to me because we've talked, it feels like for me, ad nauseum about this stuff, and we've delved a little bit into position strengths and weaknesses on the podcast, but not everybody's going to listen to every moment of the podcast or follow every single thing so I have to remember too that, like, hey, we need to talk about the things people want to hear. And he was asking about this, and I'll find the tweet in just a second, is where are the weaknesses on this team? And this is a very important question to me. Or not important. We're just so overwhelmed with optimism when it comes to Bryce Young, #1 draft pick, and this Avengers squad of coaches in the wake of the most ridiculous coach in Matt Rule. And I'll tell you more about that in a moment. But where is our optimism maybe becoming rose-colored glasses on this team?
I think between the 3 of us or the 4 of us, it always is. I mean, maybe not for me. I'm kind of a wet blanket sometimes.
Do you think, where are the weaknesses on this squad where the optimism is overriding us, where we actually may not be as strong as we think?
I think
or not
Good.
thinking about what we should be thinking?
I would tell you that it is probably at the linebacker position. We still really haven't invested anything in the linebacker position outside of a few late round picks. We have Shaq Thompson, but and Frankie Louvu. What I don't know how I feel about Frankie Louvu outside of his pass rushing and run stopping ability. I don't know how I feel about him in coverage, but he's great close to the line. But I maybe I should clarify. Middle linebacker is something we've neglected since we've lost Luke.
Yep. I agree. That's exactly what I was gonna say. Is for me, linebacker is probably the biggest position or the hole that I can see right now. And Tony, if you're gonna put it the way you'd put it, where there's a class that I think we've addressed, but may still need some work because it could be bad. Wide receiver, like it could be a big miss. I think that we might have a good thing going there, but it could be a big miss.
Sure.
Let me give credit to where credit is due. This tweet, the question was raised by a member of the C3 Army. What I love about that, I love to see the C3 family and Army grow. All you got to do is drop C3 in your bio on Twitter, or as some people have even done, put into their name on Twitter. This is C3 Mossy Man 789 News. You can find him at Mossy Man 789 News. He said this: how about the Panthers defense and the holes missing to make it a complete defense? Also, what the Panthers still need in free agency. God bless you, Tony, and yours. Keep pounding. He understands this show rolls on no matter what the news cycle is. And you guys bring up defense. One of the things that we're trying to figure out here, though, guys, as we talk linebacker, and you tried to, or not tried to, as you clarified, CK, linebacker means something different now in this 3-4 defense than we're accustomed to talking about. So we think of edge rushers and defensive fronts and this and that. And now Brian Burns is a linebacker. He's an outside linebacker. And Frankie Louvu is a linebacker. Today, I think, or yesterday, Shaq Thompson talked about why he chose Carolina and stayed there. We'll talk a little bit about that. But we've been wondering, with the Carolina Panthers having this cap space and this really some money and some opportunity to continue to improve their team, and they need to, or at least they've seemed like they are ready to improve at every turn and not be complacent like they were in the past. One of the people that we were interested, or that some people were floating out, in fact, myself, Leonard Floyd, formerly worked with Ejiro Evero with the Rams. He signs a 1-year deal with the Buffalo Bills, who need pass rush. I don't know I thought they were a 4-3 scheme, so I wonder how he's going to fit into that lineup, but he's gone now.
Yeah.
So who is next? How do you strengthen this team? And when we look at some of the free agents out there, we've talked about Clowney. You've got Justin Houston out there. Hold on. I don't even remember this guy's name. Who is I put on the left? He was hurt a year ago, and he's coming off an injury, and he played with the Jags. But, guys, how do we improve this team? Do the Panthers improve this team? Do they need to make some – you got Giannis Ngakoue.
I mean, he could be a good
On
pickup.
the right is – who's Anthony Quinn, I think.
I think if looking at what we have from what they got, the Buffalo Bills were able to sign Leonard Floyd for. I cannot imagine there's a scenario where you couldn't get a 1-year deal for Ngakoue that was going to be more than acceptable. I just don't want to.
Do you know what that number was?
$9 million for 1 year.
It's doable.
Not cheap, but
it's doable though.
It's not cheap, but when you think about what these guys, I mean, that's telling me that maybe the market isn't what these guys are hoping for the defensive tackles, and so I think that's probably a good thing, or edge rushers, I should say. But I don't know that Ngakoue, now that that's happened there, now the other part of this is it's very possible the guy goes to KC, right? And finishes up there. Tries to chase rings more than they've already done. So I don't know what our chances are with a lot of these guys. We also are missing Zeke Elliott on that list.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it. I mean, I guess these guys would help. Like, we could benefit from adding a proven, experienced player, but like Justin Houston, Anthony Quinn, these guys, Clowney. I mean, Clowney makes these guys look young. Man, these guys make Clowney look young.
Yeah.
Like Justin Houston's like 34.
Dude, he's up there, and he's already ring chasing. He's already done that in Kansas City. I think that he might go back there on a just to try to get as many rings as possible. Because I mean, a lot of times when you're at that point in your career, you're just chasing the Hall of Fame figures, and the way you get in the Hall of Fame isn't just breaking records, but saying you have 3 Super Bowls to your name or 2 Super Bowls or what have you. That helps a lot with the Hall of Fame resume. That's probably what's held Steve Smith back, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I like the idea, making true money right here. I know other people are saying in the chat too, but Ingram or Clowney sounds good to me. I pay them.
Yeah, money. I think Clowney would be the best for our team at this point. Is a guy who is productive and can do everything. And you're just going to pay him as a mercenary, and he's okay being one.
Yeah. Oh, clearly.
I forgot it though. Well, I mean, I guess free agency isn't the only way. And the Washington Commanders have, I guess they didn't pick up Chase Young's 5th-year option.
Number 5 years already.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, this is his 4th year, but you have to pick up the 5th year before the 4th year.
Yeah. That's so crazy. This is his 4th season. This is the year they picked Chase Young over Justin Herbert. Right. I think that's when it went.
Yeah.
Chase Young, though, is in the final year of his deal with the Commanders. He's the number 2 overall pick. And this tweet says, I mean, it's Dove Kleiman, who is an aggregator, which I still like this aggregation right here because he helps me easily find all the damn news.
Yeah.
He says that, and so I guess he's got somebody sourced in this, or he's referencing somebody else in this story, that the Commanders would be open to potentially trading Chase Young. And I misread this. I thought they were saying for a 2nd-round pick, and I was like, oh shit, I don't know.
Would he be worth the 2nd-round pick?
No.
You don't think
so? They're going to ask somebody first, but people are saying.
Yeah, I just,
and that's too expensive.
But you got to keep in mind, you're not giving away the round pick. You're either getting a 1-year rental of a guy that you're going to end up having to do a long-term deal with, and pay astronomically. And if you want to talk about injury prone, I mean, dude's not been the most available on the field, so you have to have that conversation as well.
He has been. You want to talk about injury prone? I mean, he's basically had a season. I mean, he's almost the same as Jaycee. He did have a great rookie season where he got like 12 sacks or some shit like that.
Yeah, but I think that he didn't even deserve the Rookie of the Year. I think that should have gone to Chin. Chin had a way more impressive resume from a statistic standpoint in that same rookie year.
You're right.
So, are you saying he's injury prone? Because he is similar to Jaycee Horn, and we didn't want to call Jaycee Horn injury prone. Like,
you mean like as in the amount of injuries he's had? He's similar.
Yeah, I mean, he's missed about the same amount of time.
Look, can you pull up his stats for us, or at least how many games he's played? If not, I can do it. But
I mean, he's had 2 injury-plagued seasons.
This is his 4th season. He got hurt, and is either at the end of his 1st season or in his 2nd season again, or maybe it was the end or towards the end of his 2nd season. But he didn't come back. Do you remember last year they kept saying he's going to come back? He's going to come back. And they kept. And he didn't do shit. And then they put him out there finally in like week 13. And they were like, nope. They shelved him.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's well, the thing that's interesting is that they didn't pick it up and pick up his 5th-year option, which is a rarity for a guy that you believe in, because that's like basically a cheap option to bring back a guy, and I won't say cheap because it's still an average of what the top 10 players at the position, but that's still a cheaper option than letting the guy go. So I mean, if he's the game changer that they believe, that everybody believes him to be, then I think that would have been absolutely. I think it would have been a no-brainer for them to take that fifth-year option on him.
Number 2 overall pick. Fuck yeah. I mean, if he's...
Well, I was going to say, he started 15 games his rookie year, then 9 the next, and 3 the year after that.
And those 3 were at the end, and he was shellish, not jealous, shellish. The question is, again, that kind of goes back to with like, and really in a kind of an important argument that maybe like what the Houston Texans were kind of facing this year. You heard rumors that they were not in love with anybody but Bryce Young. And some people were saying, oh, they're going to just pick a defensive end.
Yeah, they were just going to go. Yeah, they were going to trade out of the top 2, or that number 2 pick, and just pile up on picks for the future and whatnot. But a lot of smoke screens on that.
Mm-hmm.
And it just goes back to this it kind of, I guess, makes me think when the Panthers having the number 1 pick is, I mean, there's a world where you could have not gone quarterback. I mean, the Jags, I think, have done it before. But my point being is like, even the best of best defensive ends can only change a terrible team, but so much.
Right.
And while he's run into adversity in this case, remember, I think Von Miller went number 2 Cam's year.
Yeah.
You could say maybe he helped that defense take such a crazy step. But
but I mean, they had so many pieces on that defense.
They added them. I don't remember the order of it, but the Commanders they haven't been able to go over that hump, and they have like the best names when it comes to their defensive front over and over. Like, they should have just taken the risk and picked the quarterback.
Yeah.
I wonder.
Do you guys feel like, and I know this is a Carolina Panthers podcast, but how long into the season do you believe that Ron Rivera has before his time is up?
Oh,
this is
I think he's already done.
Bro.
Yeah, he's already done.
He's
walking into this like Matt Rule was
right now.
Yeah,
I would say, well, I would think it's a little different than Matt Rule in that Matt Rule could have, in theory, not hopefully,
saved his
but
job.
And like Tepper would have, if he would have done shown something, Tepper may have been inclined to say, man, we didn't get it wrong. Let's, but Ron Rivera is in a situation. He's been pulled in there for this reason.
Mm-hmm.
Ron Rivera was brought into the Commanders, a mess of an organization.
Yeah.
With a PR scandal, not PR scandal first, it was the name. And so they trot out the minority coach and trying to smooth. I mean, like, Ron Rivera was the guy who talked about the team name, was instrumental in picking the Commanders and the this and the that. And we never saw Rob Schneider. And poor Ron Rivera had to do the same shit for Greg Hardy. He had to do the same shit for Jerry Jones.
Do you feel like he's not getting a fair shake there?
Our owner.
Do you feel like he's not going to get a fair shake, that he basically had the same thing happen? I mean, really, think about the luck you have to have as a head coach to go from one organization that changed owner in the middle of your 10 years as head coach to another organization that's changing owner in the middle of your 10 years as head coach.
Yeah.
Like, that's like basically putting him at a huge disadvantage of the possibility of actually succeeding, or even having like any potential of getting past 1 year of difficulties with whoever this new owner is. They're going to look at a lot of different things, I think, and make a decision to get rid of him even before there's maybe reason to this year.
Yeah. I think he's gone anyway. I can even see
Everybody's gone,
him winning a division
yeah,
and
done.
being done. To be truly honest with you, they're doing a whole new regime here.
Yeah.
They've
New
changed the
owner, yeah, man,
mascot,
they're
the
out of there.
owner,
Well, the
everything.
mascot's already been changed, but the ownership is
Right.
finally going
It's a
through,
long process. Yeah,
and
they're washing everything clean. Yeah,
he served his role, guys.
yeah. I'm not saying
He
it's going
was
to be by his
brought
merits. He
in
loses
to
his
do
job.
exactly this,
Mhm.
is damage control,
Mhm.
to take over a crazily dysfunctional family or organization and to bring some semblance of order to it. And that was his strength in Carolina too, to be honest, is that it was the just steady of the course.
Yeah.
He doesn't have the best drive on the golf course, but it's good. You know what I mean? Is that Ron Rivera was not a bad coach, he just wasn't a great coach.
Right.
And I mean, he's had cancer in this time. He's getting older. And it turns out that we've learned he is somewhat stubborn in his idea of what football, how you win. I mean, and that is, look, they've only picked defensive players since.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just he
He's
feels
not-
sort of like a dinosaur at this point.
Yeah, he's certainly not evolved. You feel like he's unfortunately for him, there's not really a lifeboat. And the fact that they didn't pull the trigger on another quarterback at a high position in the draft, and that the Panthers were the ones that moved up for the number 1 overall pick, it just tells you, I think, that if I'm a Commanders fan, I'm not excited about Ron Rivera as a head coach. I think it's easy to look at last year. I mean, what was it last year that the NFC East, they all were like kind of crazy good for the entire year, or at least seemingly on the surface look good. And somehow the Commanders still were the worst of the bunch. So I don't know that I'd be excited to be a Commanders fan at this point.
Well, or maybe you finally are excited because
maybe.
it's a different. It's like the time is coming. I think this is my prediction. So a lot of people have asked, why did Eric Bieniemy go to the Commanders when it was a sinking ship? And particularly a guy that people have so many questions with, and then why do you go there? And then even if you're good, you're going to get the stink of all of that. I'm almost to the point where I think Eric Bieniemy goes, man, look, what if Ron Rivera's fired in week 10 and I'm named interim coach, and somehow I muster together what Steve Wilkes did, but on an offensive level, and get some momentum in the end and show off to the world that I'm more than an offensive coordinator.
Yeah,
but like a decent interim head coach. But back to the Panthers, should the Carolina Panthers trade for Chase Young? I think it's what the asking price I've heard previous to this was just so astronomical for so much risk. He would definitely help the Carolina Panthers if he was healthy, that type of player.
But would he?
Yeah, man. Like crazy. Like, I mean, this guy is like Jadeveon Clowney was 7 years ago. The problem is
Clowney maybe had one or maybe a year.
Clowney's been good. Look up his stat, man. This dude's had like 3 or 4. He's just quiet. He's just never
Chase Young.
No, it was saying that Clowney is never been completely as. The problem with Clowney,
he was never what he was billed to be coming out of college.
Yeah, it was just so high. But do you remember he was hyped when he left high school?
Right.
He only played, I think, 1 year in college.
Let's see his best year. Best year I'm looking at as far as tackles would be his fourth year. Sacks. Best year is his 4th year, 9.5. Then he had 9 the year before after that.
Yeah, Clowney has gotten. By the way,
he had 9 in 2021. Sorry,
the Clowney has gotten his Pro Bowls off of his name alone. Clowney has not gotten Pro Bowls because he was a game changer. Clowney has been a road warrior who's gone from different teams to different teams, and he hasn't been. Yeah, he's a mercenary, but he has never been a game changing defensive end on anybody's team.
Yeah,
No, he's never had double digit sacks, Anthony.
Ever?
Never won.
9.5. I mean, it rounds up to 10, I suppose.
What year was that?
That was 2017. He's been around since 2014. Is 2021? He
Did
hit
he
9
have
sacks.
Anthony's saying he had 11 in 2021?
No, 2021 he had 9 sacks, 13 tackles for loss, or excuse me, 11 tackles for loss, and 19 quarterback hits. Pro Bowl 3 times, AP2. I don't know what that award
The
is.
problem is, look, Clowney's been hurt. He's like Chase Young. He's been hurt his whole career, except for Clowney finds a way to play.
No, actually, he started in most games every
Right,
year
like
except
he
for
finds
1, 2,
a way
3.
to play.
Yeah.
Like his when he got drafted number 1 overall, I think he had sports hernia surgery, like right at I mean, it's always been him recovering to a certain degree. That's
Like,
the crazy
the thing
thing
I
is
have,
when the hype is so big, CK, you
right?
brought it up, is like it was like
His
it's
name is
almost
the
like he
only
could
thing
never.
it's easy to recognize because he's been on good teams as a mercenary, and I won't doubt that. But I haven't seen enough from him to warrant any type of contract, right? And a lot of people, and I'm not saying anybody in here, but a lot of the people that want Clowney are the same people who don't want to pay Burns, who's had more double-digit sack seasons than
Good point.
Clowney ever has in half the career.
Mhm.
So, I mean, that's my biggest thing is like, I don't want to pay a guy who's gonna come in here for 1 year and move on to the next team. Like, we need somebody who's gonna be here for the long haul. And Clowney has clearly been just a road warrior.
But don't we need at least 1 or 2 of those players, if we can get them, that are just going to be here for a year to come help us out? I mean,
Sure, but when you're rebuilding, I mean, I don't think that that's going to be a position that you want to put a 1 year deal on a guy. And if he does only cost $5 million, maybe you do run a flyer on him, especially at this point in time. But I just also think that he's a bit overrated just from what we've
Are
seen.
we leaning towards this, CK? Is that, and I have fearfully been thinking this myself as we've had this discussion about the need to put somebody else on the other side of Brian Burns or whatever it is, the need to bring in more talent. Are we kind of to the point where we're like, we're going to have to make do this year on this defense and try to extend Burns and find a way to make this team better when they're better? When they're better, instead of like, it's one thing for Panther fans to get their crazy hopes up about like how we can go win 11 games or some shit, but Scott Fitter and them have to also be more realistic than us or more tactical. Maybe they're saying this is we're just going to have to find a way to build this defense as it is. And then next year we're going to fucking invest maybe somewhere in the draft or,
right,
or free agency. Then does it feel like we're going to add on this defense at this point? Rashard Breeland's out there talking about how he wants to come to the Panthers. I don't even care. I mean, he does play corner. I'm always sick of this.
Why is he wanting? What's the reason that he's talking about this? Like, what is the?
Let me find the. I
maybe likes the coach, likes the idea. Look, there are some people who look at the Carolina Panthers on the players level and look at us and see a team that's building something nice here. I mean, we got some good coaches, people love to play for, and
that's what I think is worth at least asking. Is if that is the reason? I think that's worth applauding the coaching staff for putting together a team and having the tenure and maybe even the quality of coach that makes people want to come here and be a part of something bigger than just a one ring chasing year, right?
Well,
and that's why I think. I mean, to be honest with you, I think we're out of the sweepstakes on many of these guys, especially now that you see Leonard Floyd signing a 1 year deal. I think a lot of these guys are going to be chasing a ring and doing that same thing.
Or maybe they're just going to realize they're not getting $9 million.
I mean, maybe
the Brashard, and I think I've always pronounced his name. His name is Bushard. I've always called him Brushard. Bushard Breeland. He's one of these motherfuckers I hate. And I don't hate him. I don't got a problem with him as a person. I always love certain players when they're like in free agency. Right. And the Panthers can't get them. They can't afford them. And then somehow we get their stupid asses 5 years later. The guy that I will is like, I need to give we'll call it the Jarris Bird Award Jairus Byrd was a top strong safety. He had a great season with the Bills. The Panthers had no safeties. This must have been 2013 or 14. And somehow he's going to be the biggest fucking paid safety. Oh, we don't have enough money to get him. We don't have enough money to get him. The damn Saints didn't have any cap money, and they got his ass.
Right.
But then we get fucking Jairus Byrd like 3 or 4 years later when I don't want Jairus Byrd. I want the Jairus Byrd of 5 years ago. Bashard Breeland was the defensive free agent. The deal was inked, bro. It wasn't even dry on the paper. This was 2017, 18, the year that we got Don Terry Poe. And actually, this was a good. Remember, we had just fired Dave Gettleman in mid-season, so this would have been 2018 probably, or 27. Man, when did Gettleman get fired? Like the 3 weeks into what year? Maybe it was 2017.
Can I ask you a question? And I think it's worth at least. I would ask the question of why he would want to come here. Do you think it's at all related to the fact we have the second most cap space?
Well, I mean, if I was a player, I would definitely be courting those. But you're going to hear from him right here, and you're going to see some different words about it right here. It's like,
all right, let's do it.
But I did want to bring this up just before we go, and then you're gonna have to cover me, and you're gonna respond to the clip because I gotta go get my phone. The way this happened, and if we could just find the year, if anybody could tell me, I think it was whatever the year Dave Gettleman got fired. Hurney comes in, kind of a difficult situation or something, but Hurney strangely put together one of the better off seasons, it felt like. And we nailed Bashard Breeland, who was like we didn't have a secondary. We had just lost all these corners or whatever. And we're like, oh, this guy's going to make a fucking difference. And then we sign him and he goes and plays golf or something in the Caribbean and hits a golf ball hit his foot or something. He got like a foot infection and he couldn't pass the physical. The Panthers then didn't sign him. And that was like our main play. And like you missed on your main play and then you're scrambling. We went and got Don Terry Poe and we were like, oh shit, Don Terry Poe is going to be like, great second get. Great second get. We thought that motherfucker sucked for us. But
I think that.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think that's also a reflection of the fact that he didn't have anybody to help him.
Gerald McCoy. We got Gerald McCoy that year too, and stupid ass Gerald McCoy. Another guy who is like the name was bigger than the play.
Right.
And Gerald McCoy was smart. He was so well spoken. He brought the fucking icy truck out there. He made everybody. It was like, thank God. We thought we were like, oh man, the Bucks were too hard on him. Gerald McCoy did shit, man. Again, too late to the party. Here's Bashard Breeland talking about it. It's a short clip, guys. So you cover me. I'll be right back.
All right.
The team that I feel like will fit me right now, like in my career, what I got going on, as far as my personal things, it would be the Panthers. I feel like that'll fit me more. I lost a deal with them during this time, the rocky time of my career, and it's back home, so it'll be a lot of hurdles that I jumped just by playing for that one team.
So, Bree, you like I said,
but the team that I feel like will fit me right now, like in my career, what I got.
Oh God, it's on repeat.
I got
there
you.
we go. Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess it answers it. So he has a history of being in the Carolinas. It says he has some sort of ties to North Carolina. Is that what he was saying there in that?
That's what it sounded like. I'm not sure about him, to be honest with you. don't know anything about him to be true.
Do we think there's also a potential and call me cynical in a lot of these things when I say is it because we have the second most cap space? But I did like one of the things he was talking about, which is almost like a sense of closure, right? He didn't get to finish his career he lost that contract is what he was talking about. And so the idea of being able to, come to the Carolina Panthers and maybe add closure to a time that, like he said, that was tumultuous or however you want to describe it. I think that's admirable if that is in fact the reason. But again, I think that both can be true. I think he might want to do that, but also we have the second most cap space in the league right now.
I mean, it's a smart move, and I looked it up. He did go to Clemson, so I guess South Carolina. He's from the Carolinas. I mean, in that aspect of it, I didn't look further than that. Maybe he grew up here. I'm not sure, but like, I mean, it's something you always look for in a player. I'd want to see a player who wants to come here, but you're right. There is the background of more money, but of course, the guy's got to chase money. We always tell players we want them to chase money, and I feel like I don't think that he would come in here, even though we have a lot of cap space, expecting a giant contract. I think he understands his worth. He was talking about the point that I'm at in my career, where I'm at. I think he knows where he's at and what he's worth, and maybe he can get some money with some incentives here. And if he can do that and produce, then I'm fine with that.
No, I'm not opposed to the idea. I just it's always a question mark of what he's capable of doing. I think he was able to get a ring the year, if I'm not mistaken, the year he went to the Chiefs, because after he left, went to the deal fell through with us. I think he went to the Chiefs after that, or at least that's what is ringing a bell in my mind. Maybe Chad can correct me there, but if he's able to come in here and produce, that'd be great. I think we do need another cornerback, because we have two cornerbacks that are star players that have yet to complete a season without having some sort of injury. So
we got a crappy one too, CJ Henderson's.
Right.
Yeah. So who's the odd man out if we did get him? Like, would we maintain everybody we still had? Or
maintain, yeah. I mean, right now you got to have a rotational basis out there on the. I mean, I'm assuming there are some depth guys that aren't going to make it. I mean, heck, CJ Henderson may be on the chopping block, to be quite honest with you. But
who does he knock out of the starting lineup though? Like, does he come in, because he's not coming here getting signed for a deal and not starting, right?
I mean, potentially. I mean, there's been plenty of it. There's a potential that DJ Chark doesn't start if Terrace Marshall and Thielen blow it out of the water.
That's true.
There's a lot of these guys that potentially could be starters or paid to be starters and not ever actually see the field as a Panther.
Yeah. I'm not familiar enough with his stats to say that he would come in and knock somebody else out of the lineup. I just know that I'm familiar enough with CJ Henderson's stats that I know that almost anybody could do better, or I feel like they could.
Right.
So it'd be cool to see somebody come in and replace that, because I feel like that's a weakness in our defense.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's at the end of the day. I mean, we have some safety positions that have been filled. We have our linebackers that I think the team is happy with. Whether we are or not is the question mark. I think the biggest hole in our defense is going to be the cornerback outside of that middle linebacker position that I feel like isn't filled yet.
Yeah. And I'm going to start a drinking game, just so you know, CK. Every time somebody in the podcast says at the end of the day,
end of the day, dude. Yeah, well, we've all come from the Matt Rule pressers, dude, and he's imprinted on us. At the end of the day, I think man, it's I don't know. I'm just here to have fun.
I hear you, man. But yeah,
did it just keep playing over and over?
No, it did, but I just removed Greg was able to pull it off.
Keep going. Mute me again.
All right. Well, I mean, Greg, given the situation, and one of the things we were going to talk about is beyond the holes is what at this point in time, what was it that we were going to talk? There was another segment we were thinking about adding tonight. Did we get to the what caption this, what Steve Smith was going to be saying? I know we talked about it a little bit.
We did not get to that.
Maybe we can pull that up and we can try to get chat to throw out some ideas of what Steve Smith was actually saying here, and be as funny as you possibly can. I think I was going to ask you, Tony, if you're still there and able to hear me, maybe we should throw out a meme contest during the off season, like, the people who make the best Panthers related memes, and we can do like a little thing on the show every Tuesday.
Yeah, that's actually a great idea. This is perfect. What is your meme? Meme this for us. We're gonna come up with this. We'll come up with a cool name. The number's 252-228-5098. We'd love to hear what you think Steve Smith was saying out there to the players. In fact, Ricky Prohl was out there too. And you got to wonder, it's probably like, hey, now that Matt Rule's gone, I don't mind being around an efficient organization. I saw this from Andy Dalton, who addressed the news. He said, I definitely think I'm still one of the 32 guys out there. But I know that's not the position I'm in. My whole goal is to kind of be the example and not necessarily set the standard, but show how it's supposed to be done. I don't know what that last sentence means there.
He's supposed to set the standard. He's supposed to show the young people like Bryce Young
how you not set the standard.
Well,
he means of his play, not his behavior.
Yeah, he's saying not set the standard as far as like who's the like Patrick Mahomes, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he's pretty much putting out there that like I can be a good backup mentor and teach these guys how to play, and I may be better than a bunch of people who are starting in the league as far as rookies and everything else go. But
that's not what I'm here for.
But
can we talk about the maturity level that it takes to have that type of approach?
Like, he's made a lot of money.
Well, he has, but
he's made a whole lot of money.
But think about the pride aspect of that. Like these guys have been at the top of their game. Like Andy Dalton, until he went to the NFL, was probably largely considered the best player on the field in many of the in the teams that he's ever played for until he got to the NFL. Right? Yeah. All of these guys have ego. They have to. You don't go to the NFL. You don't become a professional athlete without having ego. It's just the reality of it, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. As long as you can control your ego, that's perfectly fine to have that. But to have somebody come out here and say, "Listen, I believe I am one of the top 32 quarterbacks out there," but I'm not coming at this from the perspective of everybody is dumb for not putting me on their team because I am, I should be the starter on any team out there, right? He could take that approach, and I don't think anybody would sit there and heckle him over that.
I wouldn't heckle him over that, but I mean, you do have to have confidence. But you're right. You're bringing up something important. Is Tannehill said, "I'm not here to teach anybody."
Right. Remember, you see a lot of these guys. They're going to go out with a very bad, they're going to leave a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths, fan bases and people management, things like that. If Tannehill ever wanted to go into coaching, that statement alone is going to be reason that he will never be hired as a head coach or a offensive coordinator or a quarterbacks coach, because he is showing that he is not a person who is willing to mentor or help someone, even in a position where he is now, where he is clearly at the end of his career. Right? This is not the writing's on the wall. Like,
this made me think of Cam Newton, though.
This might be what?
This made me think of Cam Newton.
It did. It me as well.
I'm better than the top 32.
Yeah.
This is the exact reason why Cam Newton can't be a backup quarterback.
Right.
Is because he is, and there's nothing. He didn't say anything more arrogant than this statement, really. Right. I mean, maybe it's like he didn't talk about the. Actually, I would say this is he probably gave a statement that was comparable to this.
Well, I think the
difference is that Dalton can be in the background of the picture, and Cam Newton is always going to be in the forefront of the picture. So I think Dalton is saying this is like, hey, look, I can play this game at a level that's better than people give me credit for. A, B, that's better than a lot of people in this league. And C, you have to have this attitude if you're a quarterback in the NFL. Like, you have to believe in yourself. It was like we've seen quarterbacks who don't believe in themselves, aka Jimmy Clausen, and you have to be able to shrug off an interception. You have to be able. Even Frank Reich said this recently: is like, we don't need you just checking it down. We need you to go for it, and have the balls to go for it. I think he's saying I have all those things, but look, I also know where my bread's buttered. And like, I've got a good 12 or 13 more $1 million to make in this league being a backup quarterback.
Yeah. I mean, look at it like this. He's in the NFC South. So who are the quarterbacks in the NFC South right now? You got to be better than Baker Mayfield, Derek Carr, and what, Ritter? Is that his name? Okay, so I would say Andy Dalton is on par or could be better than any of those guys. So when he makes a statement like this, what he's saying, I think the difference between him and Cam saying this, I'm not trying to knock Cam. I think Cam says that with the mindset of I'm better than more, I'm not the 33rd best guy. The same kind of thing here. I should be starting over them. Was I think Cam's mindset. Whereas Andy Dalton is I kind of understand my role. I'm better than some of these guys out there, but I kind of understand my role. And he's going to make the money being one of the highest paid backup quarterbacks. Maybe it'll fruit him something.
And there's
one day,
good money in that business, bro.
Very good. Yeah.
Is that like, I mean, if you could be a backup and think about this, is like you could get $10 million in 1 year, but you could also get 1.5 million over each year for the next 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
Be employed, stay functional and busy. I think this is I like this part. Actually, now that I've thought about it more, he says, not necessarily to set the standard. What I think he really means by that is like, look, is that while I'm pretty good, I know that I'm not going to go out here and say I'm the guy that needs to have this moment.
Right.
I'm just the guy that's supposed to show you how you come to work, how you think and prepare and learn the league. And that's what we brought him in for. The crazy part about Andy Dalton, again, to me, is that I disliked him so much, but not because of him. He was just catching strays because there was a point in Cam Newton's career in 2012 and 13 and 14 where people said that Andy Dalton was better than Cam. And I was like, you guys are fucking out of your mind.
Yeah.
And that wasn't Andy Dalton's fault.
No, it wasn't. I mean, and it's again, it's how many times do we have the same reaction when somebody comes to the Panthers? Though, like we start to be like, yeah, we're softening our stance on this a little bit because now he's a Panthers, he's a player for the Panthers. So, and we maybe look at things a little bit differently when that happens. We maybe open our eyes a little bit. Maybe we become a little bit more biased and in favor of Andy Dalton now that he is a Carolina Panther. And he said the things that he does about wanting to mentor and help Bryce Young develop into a quarterback that we hope he's going to be for being the number 1 overall pick. Listen, I mean, it's hard not to, root for the guy, but at the same time, it's you can't help but respect the fact that he has the mindset that he does, because there's a lot of people, again, this is a prideful type of situation. And there's plenty of quarterbacks out there that would not have that same mindset. And that's not saying Cam, by the way. I think Cam Newton would be more than willing to mentor many guys if he were on a team with a rookie or given that opportunity. I think he would be more than understanding, and I think he would be a fantastic person to show somebody. I wouldn't say Bryce Young, but I think a CJ Stroud would benefit heavily from a Cam Newton in his ear.
Yeah.
This we gotta everybody carefully study Greg's reaction. He has not heard or seen or know about any of this. Is that Colby, who's a Greenville native ECU guy who has seen me in Greenville around, he said this. I asked, and again, guys, on Tuesdays, I'm going to start asking what you guys want to talk about. And again, I'm going to continue to feature and get better at this and feature you guys' tweets because you guys are giving me the information. He said this is, I would like to know whose stock do you think will rise throughout the season and whose stock do you think will drop, forcing them to lose snaps? So I got this tweet at the same time that I saw a funny post on Facebook from this friend of mine, and she goes, I hope I don't offend y'all, but y'all got to look at the comments that they're doing. And it was of this dude and I guess his mom. He's a ballet dancer in Denmark or somewhere in the Netherlands or Denmark or somewhere in Europe. I think that's where Cody, guys, by the way, Cody is flying. That's man, he missed the show tonight. I think he flew and went to the ballet. I'm ready. I know that I love Cam Newton. Maybe we'll do it as the David Dato, aka Dab on him pick. But right now I'm ready to bring this into the show right here. The David Dato Ball Out Award. Who balls out this year like David Dato does every day of his life? This ballet dancer that Cody Lashney, I'm pretty sure, went to go see tonight. First of all, do you guys like the idea of the David Dado Ball Out Award?
I don't want to have to look at this picture every time we pull this award out.
You
But
bro. You got to. Or should we make it the David Dato, aka Dab on Them Ball Out Award? Is that too much?
Might be a little bit too much. Like the dab on them is nice and concise. The ball out award, I don't mind changing to. I think that it would be. I think what we would need to do is put multiple, like every Sunday, because this is going to be in the post game. Every Sunday we would have a different person's picture there, and like in leotards
that's a trophy. So I tried to make it. If you look at the base of the, I put a base on it.
I can do a 3D print of that,
and I want to make him a trophy. Like whenever someone hoists they hoist the David Dato Ball Out Award.
I would almost say let's do that and let's actually send that to a player at the end of the year.
The actual trophy
as a trophy. Hey, listen, like, you got the most
pepper in your brass balls. Fuck you. I see your brass balls and I raise you a David Dado Ball Out Award.
If you're gonna call it the David Dado Dab on Him Ball Out Award, call it the Triple D Ball Out Award.
See, like I think we're going
the Triple D Ball Out Award.
AKA makes it kind of ridiculous, like it is. So the David Dado, aka Dab on Him, like, and it somehow ties into Carolina Cat Chronicle, to Carolina history. I am, for some reason, I feel like this just has to be part of this. I was all over these big balls right away.
Wow.
And when I say that is somebody goes, "Oh, you should make this," and I was like, I was already making the image. David Dado, by the way, is probably only 5'4", but he makes you all feel like boys.
I mean, we assume there's a lot of stuff in the, there's
this is somebody said this is they were like, hey man, or maybe should the catchphrase be, Greg, David Dado Ball Out Award, there can be only one? Wait a second, there's definitely two.
That's a good shirt idea. Like
every week we got to give the Ball Out Award to two. Like, there can only be one. Nope. Well, there are two, bro.
It depends.
You would have to call it Balls Out.
I was gonna say, are you gonna call it Ball Out or Balls Out? That would make a difference. If you call it Balls Out, then you have to have two, right? But Ball Out,
if you call it Ball Out, it's like one's just peeking outside of the boxers. You know, this is a weird conversation.
Different light earlier this week. This was before the David Dado Ball Out Award came into place, and it's coming. It's totally coming to this podcast.
Okay.
On this podcast.
Right.
I was talking to my kid, and I just like, again, I have a teenager that doesn't want to talk to me. So like I ride in the car and he's just like,
that's a surprise.
I know it's not but like you want to continue to just have a relationship with your and you are. I'm very involved with his life. He just is very mild-mannered. He's not a super talker. And so I'll be like taking him all over places and this, and he's just like content with being quiet and listening to music and looking at his phone, which I think is also like, I don't want to be friends with my parents when I was that age either. But I was.
But doesn't that depress you though?
What's that? Yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible because you're trying to be someone's friend. I used to always make this joke because I had kids because I didn't have friends, so I made them. And I knew that I had a temporary friend for 13 years. I made that joke. And it's actually true. Like 13, like the limit on their friendship is up at that point. But he's not mean to me, right? He's not mean to me. It's just like this. It's just like, I always say, you remember that guy, the most interesting man in the world? He's like, I'm the least interesting man in the world to my son, Michael. So I asked him about this as we were talking about pants. And I said, why is it called pants when it's a pant? It's a singular. Yeah. And he takes Spanish. I said, is it singular or plural in Spanish? He goes, oh, no, it's pantalones. So he goes like, he's like, first of all, he did not give a shit about this conversation at all. And I was trying to make like, and I was like, well, why would you call it a pants when it's only one? It's singular. He's like, well, there's two legs. He actually didn't even give a fuck. Anyway, plural versus singular. Should the David Dato be balls out award, or should it be David Dato?
Let me start a poll.
Is he got balls out or is he balling out?
Should I start a poll in the chat?
I don't know. I think we do need to somehow. This has to be part of the show. How long do we hold on to Cam Newton?
I don't think we can. I think we're holding on to Steve Smith, to be fair, with the ice up pick, but the Dab, not only is the Dab on him pick, I'm supporting the idea of moving on to the Dab from the Dab on him pick, because the Dab by itself has already been outdated by a pretty large amount of time.
Right. Like people don't even know what the fucking Dab is anymore.
Right.
Just when my ass learned what it was, it went out of style.
Right. So I think it does allow you to reminisce the 2015 season, but I think there has to come a point where you move on from those years, because otherwise we're the Dallas Cowboys.
That's a good point.
Well, I don't like David Dato, aka Dab on him, ball out pick, but I see what you're saying. And David Dato, dude, that dude could walk into any room. He wore and we'll get to the Steve Smith, and I do this to us. I make you guys listen to ridiculous tangents.
What?
I was teaching this class once, and I have these sticks, like everybody's got their jokes, their things they go with. Is when I was coming up, and girls, I was like trying to learn how to dress and look cool. You know what I mean? Like you start to get a matching, like a style that wasn't ridiculous, like a skater kid that I was, where it was like, oh, I wear these Janko jeans that are 40-inch bottoms and this leather coat and go skate all day like that. But like actually trying to look somewhat presentable. Somebody told me, like, I get these super, like 1 or 2 lessons and you just like, they stick with you. And somebody told me brown and black don't go together. Mm-hmm. And I was like, yep, they don't go together. Like I just made it part of my fucking formula. Well, somehow brown and black have become like intertwined, right? Like now you can get black shoes that have a brown stripe on them or some shit like this. But wear a black pair of pants and put on a brown belt and you look like a dummy. It just doesn't look, it doesn't go right. Yeah. My wife used to say navy blue and black don't go together. I was like, you're wrong, man. The fucking Marines do that shit. But I've always like leaned into that brown and black don't go together. And I used to joke on all the young girls in my class. And I would say, and not joke on them, I say, cover your ears if you're wearing brown shoes and black leggings right now. Cover your ears because it doesn't match. And for some reason, I always do it when we're talking about like shit that's just ridiculous or something, like, and it's like my go-to stick of brown and black don't go together. And this student, I remember, it was so awesome. He was an older student too. He's probably like 29. He said, Mr. Dunn, real respectful too. Mr. Dunn, don't do anything. Don't do or say basically anything that discourages girls from wearing yoga pants. That's what he said in class. And I was like, you're right. I mean, I didn't say this, but I was like, brown and black do go together in that context. If you're David Dato, I'm walking around in leggings everywhere.
I mean, I don't think you have to, right? You just walk around regular pants.
Oh, yeah. Right. Like you just be like, wear regular pants. He looks like me when I got my vasectomy.
That's so.
Wow.
Dude, I had a terrible vasectomy. It worked though. It did work. It was worth it. I would go back and do it again.
I'll second that.
I did buy. Look, it's the industrial. I'm a Catholic. Don't have to go to confession for this shit. We're not supposed to do that. But I had 3 kids. I did my part. This ain't no fucking agrarian world no more. We're not shepherds. having 7 kids is not an asset.
Yeah.
Don't have just you know what, CK, in this last tangent, we'll talk about this of how much has Steve Smith influenced our season, and then go to the calls. The number is 252-228-5098. You can tell us what you think Steve Smith was saying in that picture. I'll put it up. Call in and let us know, 252-228-5098, and tell us what you think, Steve, what story. And it could be wrong answers, could be right answers. Be creative.
Tony, you got the one bastard kid too. You want to make sure you
Oh,
knew
I
that.
do have an extra bastard.
You wanted to make sure you knew that.
I don't pay for that, motherfucker, though. He pays me, which is awesome. What was I saying?
Can we talk about what we think this is? What are you saying?
Yeah. But CK, I was going to say this is now that you have a second kid, you finally got out of hobby baby land. And I always tell people is like, all right, first I say, how many kids you got? They go, 1 kid. I say, are they healthy? Because I made this joke one time and the kid was unhealthy. Not a good joke. They got fucking health problems. And they go, yeah. And I go, oh, you got a hobby baby. Because like 1 baby, I could fucking be a heart surgeon. Like I could take that kid to work. 1 baby's easy. 2 babies, you start to think you're a good parent. 3 babies, the shit gets out of control and you become an alcoholic. But
yeah,
it's true. Like you go to zone defense, it's too hard. But CK, the reason that's good that you have multiple kids now is because the odds in this world, how many families you know that have a black sheep of the family?
Oh yeah, dude. It's a joke it's a running joke with my wife, and she hates it. I'm like, listen, I just wanted to hedge my bets.
Yeah, I mean, you need somebody that love you and take care of you when you're old. And if you have 1 kid and they turn out to be the black sheep asshole, which every family seemingly has, turns out I'm the one in my family. You know, that's like your bets are all in. You're putting all your eggs in one basket. So
right.
The number is 252-228-5098. Guys, what do you think Steve Smith is saying here? We're going to do your takes. Then I'm going to have CK do the subscriber shame. And then we'll get to the calls.
All right. I look at this picture right here, and I think he's talking to these guys in a circle, and he's talking about the Matt Rule era. And he's talking about how Matt Rule came in here and said he was going to do all this stuff and blah, 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 blah. And this is the very end of the conversation where he's talking about it, and he goes, but at the end of the day, throws his hands up right there. So that's what I think this is.
At the end of the day, elite. CK, we need...
I got to drink. I got to drink too, Tony. But every time somebody says at the end of the day, which is twice now, we got to drink. It's a C3.
CK, we need Cody here because he's got to be cheesing not on Steve Smith, but you know he'd be cheesing on some damn Matt Corral back there.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I know. Yeah, he'd be having
he's having a good time. Look, Matt Corral is fucking living life back there. He's picking down? He's picking up whatever Steve Smith is putting down. What's he putting down there, CK?
Great question. I think that he's putting down, and they got rid of me and thought they could replace me with Devin Funchess or Kelvin Benjamin.
Yep. I wonder if it's going to be like something like, it's got to be about punching somebody in the face.
You had to do it.
Can't do what I do, what I did.
Do what I say, not what I do, is what he was saying. Because Steve Smith is ingratiating himself like he is a Team Panther, right? I mean, he is. Yeah. Not only is he arguably the best Panther, but he's really embraced the organization, the culture, the role of ultimately best Panther ambassador, right? And the irony is, I was like, you know what? I would have said, all right, this is what he's saying right here. This is exactly what he's saying. He's saying this is, you know, I wanted to fucking punch Dwayne Jarrett in the face. But I looked into his eyes and nothing was there. And I felt bad about punching somebody that had no brain. Ouch. Yeah. CK.
Yes, sir.
Can you shame these people?
I don't know, man. Maybe. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, you have joined me and my fellow C3 Panthers podcast co-hosts and all the fans in the chat to talk about absolutely nothing, because it is the off season. We have minicamp coming up, but then there's going to be a whole heap of nothing. But you've come here anyway to chalk it up with the best Carolina Panthers podcast. You know, I'm a bit biased. You haven't hit that like button yet. You haven't hit that subscribe button yet. You haven't shared with your family yet. Well, one thing to say to all you absolute freaks: subscriber shame.
Subscriber shame. Let me see if I can get this. Where is Cody Lash when you need him? I don't know where the actual real subscriber shame bumper is at. Oh, there it is. I see it now. That's subscriber shame. Smash the thumbs up button. Consider being a part of the show by calling in at 252-228-5098. The longest running Panthers podcast here every Tuesday night, 9 p.m. into the wee hours. We're almost 2 hours in. We're about to get to your calls. Again, let's hit these cat calls, guys. Let me check. This is where are these cat calls at? Hopefully I can do both of this at the same time.
So what are your thoughts on catcalling?
Yeah, it's pretty. You shouldn't do that to somebody.
And how did that make you feel?
Very uncomfortable.
So how do you think catcalling makes the person feel?
It feels good, like.
Who's that cat sitting in the back corner with his face buried in his nose? Who's that kid that can use one?
Yo, what up, C3? It's TJ out of G Vegas. I hope everybody's having a good week. It's been a beautiful one here in Greenville. I'm just calling to give my prediction for Bryce Young's numbers this year. Everybody's doing it. So with that, I'll start out by saying I'm not a fanboy, but I do like the kid, and I hope he's great. Obviously, he's our quarterback. So I do also think he'll be starting week 1, considering that he does well with the ones during preseason, which, of course, will have his chance. Otherwise, how would you know? So unless he does horrible there, I think he'll be starting week 1. And if that's the case and he stays healthy, I'm going to go ahead and say 3,800 passing yards. Now, I know y'all are saying 4,000. If you like 4,000, make it 4,000. I really don't care about the numbers.
Yeah, I think that's
3,800 passing yards, 25 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. All right, and I'm giving him the huge benefit of the doubt here, okay? And given the recent history, I hate to bring the dude up, but I was curious. I went back and looked at Mayfield's numbers his rookie year. He's got 37-25 passing yards, 27 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. Now, that's 14 games. He had more yards the next year, less yards the year after. But, second year touchdown interception ratio was terrible. Better the third year, but then he fell off. All that to say is I care less about yards. I don't care if he throws for 2,000 yards. All I want to see is consistent improvement and availability. If he can do those things, I'll be happy, happy, happy. That's all I want to see out of him. So having said all that, I want to go ahead and join you guys this week with an ice up. By icing up everybody who is saying he's the next Drew Brees. You discredit yourself and you just sound dumb by saying, and I don't want to hear, oh, we're just comparing stats and play style. No, y'all said he is the next Drew Brees. So put Drew Brees in the draft this year, randomize the team that selects him, and the odds of Drew Brees being Drew Brees again are slim to none. I mean, he breaks his leg, comes back, breaks it again, bye-bye Drew Brees. So, don't disrespect Drew Brees like that. He's an all-time great Hall of Famer. So, ice up, son. Keep pounding. Y'all have a good one.
Oh,
Keep pounding.
Disrespect. I disrespected Drew Brees once, and he laughed at it. This was the 2010 season where we just were stinkers. And I went to the Saints at Panthers game, and they beat us 34-3. It was a long game. We sat on the 45-yard line, 4 or 5 rows up. It was not, we were close. Only paid like $45 to tickets, which was awesome. And we got to like, you could yell, you were close enough, and there weren't a lot of people there either, and they could hear you. And this motherfucker was carving us up. Like, I mean, how do you talk shit to someone who is playing, like just beating your ass? You know, like, what do you say?
Well, you found something.
All I came up with was your wife's a better actor than you are. They were doing these Allstate commercials or some shit like that. And he was terrible in them, and she was charismatic. Drew Brees, if he could be Drew Brees, man, fuck yeah. Hell yeah.
Well, the thing is I think I think we'd like to be under the impression that he can be more than Drew Brees, right? Like the hope is that he can be more than, and here's the thing.
He's the
Anybody who's
first pick,
saying
Drew
any
Brees.
of these, anybody who's saying any of these guys are going to be anybody is just hoping that they turn out to be what they are potentially billed as, right? Nobody knows for sure. And there is a lot of luck involved with many of these people, these players and their careers. But the thing that I think is worthy of this is that I think that he's got the accuracy and all that stuff. But what Drew Brees didn't have was the athleticism that Bryce has. So there's a potential aspect to Bryce's game that might put him in a better category than Drew Brees. So I agree. Don't compare him to Drew Brees because I think that they could be potentially two completely different players, and Bryce Young has the potential to be even better than what Drew Brees was.
But I felt like he was also saying that was disrespecting Drew Brees at this point because he was a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, that's what he's saying. But I'm throwing out another angle to this, and that is that anybody who's saying that he is going to be the next Drew Brees, I agree. You can't say he is going to be this, he is going to be that.
He reminds you of where their abilities are
right.
similar.
There's a chance that Hendon Hooker is a better quarterback than every single one of these people that were picked in the first round. There's a chance of that. There's a chance for that to be the reality. Anybody who's saying otherwise doesn't know what the history of the NFL looks like, right? But right now, Bryce Young has all the pieces to potentially be better than Drew Brees, and that's what we're looking for.
Yeah, and I think when we say that too is like he's Drew Brees if we knew what Drew Brees was going to be when you drafted Drew Brees. Like, so Drew Brees was drafted like in the second round or third, you know.
Right.
But it's like if you said somebody's like Tom Brady, you don't really mean like they're going to be Tom Brady and exceed him. They're just like, hey, is that if we would have kind of known who Tom Brady was, we would have picked him here. And I feel like that's what you're hoping Bryce Young is like if we knew what Drew Brees was going to be, he wouldn't have been a second round pick. He would have been the first overall pick.
Well, and I can hear the hesitation in his voice with regard to Bryce Young being the guy, right? It sounds like he was hoping for maybe somebody else, which is fine. I think many people had that hope as well. But I will say the part, what was it that he was talking about? With Drew Brees being an all-time great, but there was something else he was.
He got injured twice. I don't remember him breaking his leg twice.
No, he's talking about if Drew Brees had come into the league and broken his leg two years in a row, he would have been looked past at that point in time. Nobody would have.
Okay. I do think it's fair. It's like first is the comp game is a dangerous game.
Yes.
Well,
dangerous.
And I think Cody
it's a fun game.
Yeah, it is. It's like all you can do is like we're limited to our faculties in a certain sense.
Right.
But Cody's also right is don't box him in. It's like don't put a ceiling on a guy by that comp either. Numbers 252-228-5098.
What's up, C3? It's Anthony from Charlotte. First off, hit the like button, hit the motherfucking subscribe button. This is the best podcast on YouTube, the longest running Panther podcast as well. But just wanted to call in. Hope y'all are doing good, having a good day. Really not much to talk about. Kind of like last week, Panthers switched back for the quarterback, switched back to black practice jerseys as opposed to red. I like that a lot more. I think the culture is shifting for sure. I think there's all positive vibes going around in practice and on the team, and old veterans coming and coaching these guys up, which is awesome stuff to see. It's not much else to talk about, man. Just ready for the season. At this point, we have to pay Brian Burns. Nick Bosa is going to be paid soon. We have to pay him. That's just what you got to do. Pass rush. Speaking of pass rush, what are we going to do, man? I mean, listen, I want to trust this defensive coordinator to, hopefully he knows what he's doing. But one of the big holes with Denver last year was they were ranked like close to dead last in pressures. Okay, they could stop the run. I think Evero cares more about stopping the run in this defense than getting pressure on the quarterback. But in my opinion, we still can't just rely on Brian Burns being the only guy there.
Right.
I think that eventually they'll try to pick one of these guys. I think you just have to. There's proven veteran names that, maybe they're not in their primes anymore. Or maybe they're just not that high of a quality of a player. But they're certainly better than whatever we have besides Brian Burns. And there's no doubt about it. DJ Johnson, I think he can be solid at some point in time. I really do. He's a third-round pick, and it's hard for me to put all my chips in that basket, especially being a first-year guy. You got to go out and sign someone. I know I sound like a broken record at this point, but it's just really worrying me about that edge rusher room. Nothing else to say. Anthony from Charlotte, keep motherfucking pounding. Give me your thoughts on, the edge position. And,
The edge position, it's like what we have. Again, thank you, Anthony, for the call. The number is 252-228-5098. Founder of the C3 Army, by the way. And sometimes I feel like we're just ad nauseum talking about it.
Right.
But then not everybody is talking about it all the time.
Right.
The question is like, look, is DJ Johnson going to be the dude? Probably not. But if he's a contributor in his rookie year, going to be happy. We're probably going to have to, looking at this point, if we don't add somebody, is really trying to get something out of like Marquise Haynes and your Gross-Matos.
Yeah.
And then maybe actually we're talking about Uter Gross-Matos as actually being a defensive end. It's going to be, can he play outside linebacker? Is he that agile? I don't know. Maybe we're going to need Amari Barno to be. That's the guy that's got the agility and the speed. But right now I'm starting to feel like this is, are you going to go get a 34-year-old guy and start him over a player who you just don't know anything about and basically you're going to give up on? I almost feel like we need to start just saying this is we've got to figure out if Barno, Gross-Matos, and I guess the old hat of the bunch, Marquise Haynes, should be on the team beyond this year. It's like if you bring in another guy who would help you this year, you're still never going to figure those things out.
Right. Well, that's the same.
Like what you talked about with Terrace Marshall Jr. last week.
That's exactly what I was about to say. You're basically asking. I agree with this to some, within some level of I agree with this at the surface level, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Basically, I think that the problem I have is that I think that Terrace Marshall Jr. has had less opportunity to show what he's capable of than Marquise Haynes has. So I'm not prepared to put him in the same level as TMJ because I think TMJ has let's be real, he's a second round draft pick, and he has
right. Well, actually, YGM would probably be the better comparison. There is that a guy who was a second round draft pick,
but YGM still has had more opportunity than TMJ. Because here's the thing, TMJ. Here's the thing that I think is unfair for Terrace Marshall Jr.
Makes my jaw hurt.
You sound like kids,
right?
With acronyms.
Terrace Marshall Jr. is reliant on a quarterback getting him the ball.
Right.
Well, isn't every receiver?
Right. But what my point is that YGM has been able to show what he's capable of, and he doesn't have anybody else holding him back, and he still has been less than incredible.
In a completely deficient world where you
Sure.
have inflated expectations. To me, this is the year for YGM. And I'm not saying he's going to be the breakout player, but again, if you're not the top of the top, if you're not a Chase Young type, supposedly can't miss, I always feel like these defensive players who are raw take time to learn how to beat the more advanced offensive linemen because they have to mentally learn the game. And I still go back to Charles Johnson. Charles Johnson was a great defensive end for this team, but didn't significantly make an impact until year 3.
Right.
It's like, what I'm saying is this is like, if we'll know with YGM this year, some people have already sold on him.
Right.
I want to hold the stock a little bit longer. I think going and getting a Justin Houston, maybe Leonard Floyd made sense to me because like he is played in those schemes a lot and he's not that far on the back end. I will field an argument for Clowney, but these are still short-term fixes.
Exactly.
And I just feel like we kind of invested in the offense. So it's finally time on this team for the offense to carry the defense a little bit.
I agree.
The defense has carried this fucking team for the last basically 10 years. And that's been without great talent at sometimes too. Look at the last 3 years. Like we've been not been a good talented defense, and they were still pretty fucking decent or good. Now it's time for the offense to be above average and the defense to just scrape average, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think Carolina, to be honest, you said in the last 10 years, I don't think that we've really ever, maybe 2015, we've never been known as a team that's been a powerhouse offense. It's always been a defensive strong team. Even 2015 was a surprise. Nobody was expecting us to be a powerhouse offense. Nobody's ever looked at us, I don't think.
That's a great question is, what was the best Panthers offense? It's got to be 2015.
2015 is, I don't even know that there's a
2003,
5.
2000.
I think it might be the 5 years where we lost to the Seahawks. The Seahawks went and lost to the Steelers in the Super Bowl. We beat the Bears that year. I felt like our offense was all right that year. Maybe I'm wrong. What was the best Panthers offense other than 2015? That might be a great question. And I know you guys want to go and say the one that won the Super Bowl, but they weren't. Well,
made it to the Super Bowl, yeah.
We scored 12 points. We beat my favorite game of the 2003 Super Bowl run was we beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers by blocking 3 kicks and then kicked it. Remember, we didn't even score a touchdown that game, I don't think, and we won. And that set off this crazy run. I wonder what was the best Panthers offense. Maybe 2017 until Cam got hurt. Great question. Let's go to the next call. The number's 252-228-58-5098. No one said what Steve Smith said yet.
Podcast brothers, how y'all doing? It's G Cavassier. Hey, boy, I got some stuff to talk to y'all about tonight, man. Number one, I have question marks with our team. Okay, as y'all seen, Leonard Floyd signed with the damn Buffalo Bills. Okay, Leonard Floyd, we all know, is outside linebacker or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Won a ring with the LA Rams, and guess who? You know what I'm saying? Who coached him? The same dude that coached him, whatever, is now on the damn Panthers. And I have a problem with the linebackers. Yes, we have Shaq Thompson. You know what I'm saying? He came back. You know, and we got Frankie Louvu. Who's going to be the you know what I'm saying, the third linebacker? Is it going to be Jeremy Chin? I don't know. Where is Chin going to fit in this damn defense, man? That's what has me damn worried. I'm like, what the hell is going on? Because we need somebody on the opposite side of Brian Burns, man. We're going to have to do that shit. And I don't know who the hell we're going to place there. I don't know what the hell we been waiting for, you know, because, you know, Fitch always said, we're in every deal. You know, he said that shit like, what, a year ago, 2 years ago, whatever. But I'm just like, you know, what in the hell are we going to do who's going to play on the opposite side of Brian Burns, man. You know, and when it comes to linebacker, who is going to be that third linebacker, man? Is it going to be Jeremy Chin? If it's not Jeremy Chin, who the hell is it going to be? And if it's somebody, if you pick somebody else up, where is Jeremy Chin going to fit in this daggone defense? It's not going to be safety, you know, because we had Xavier Woods, and now we got Von Bell from Cincinnati. And the corners, you know, we got, you know, Dante Jackson and you know what I'm saying, and Horn. Where the hell is he going to fit at in this defense? Give me your thoughts on that, y'all. Keep pounding.
Continue to come back to this linebacking core. I brought up Shaq Thompson. For me, is that it's hard for someone brought up in the comments of the show after maybe it was 2 weeks ago. He said, you got to stop calling Brian Burns a defensive end. He's an outside linebacker. And the person that was totally right in making the comment, right, is like in schematically, this is how we're listing him. Second, I don't think though is that Burns detail is going to change that much. What I mean by that is you just won't see him hand in the dirt as much, but his obligations will be similar. He's still going to try to be the primary pass rusher of this team.
Yeah.
He was already dropping back into coverage at times.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I don't think so. I think it's a more of a change in a title than it is in the actual reality. But I mean, certainly there are schematic differences. But when we talk about this linebacking core, as we are for our first time in this show's history, really having to start to adopt, like learn about what a 3-4 is and how it works and what type of players you want and what we're going to be trying to do. Shaq Thompson has been a figure in this team that has, I don't know, maybe unduly taken criticism, maybe gotten too much leeway at times from some people. I don't really know how to feel about Shaq Thompson, but he became he's a big fan favorite at the moment because he took a very team-friendly deal where I thought like the Panthers were going to have to release him or do something. And everybody's like, oh my God, Shaq Thompson. Loves the team, man. So good. Such a dude. Best dude ever. And he's endured. He's been a very big, important face for this team and a lot of crap. Like he's like been our Ron Rivera of the last 3 years. But now we've learned this is what he said is like he was asked about when he came back to Carolina. And like this is good and bad, but there's also not good and bad. It's just how do you guys take? He said this, just look at the linebacker market. Nobody was getting paid. So he started out with that. It wasn't like, oh, I wasn't interested in a deal. It was like, I'm going to get big money somewhere else.
Right.
But then he comes back and just says this is like, he said, so it was just weighing out, do I want to be here or do I want to go somewhere else? And that actually is like really, he did take was $500,000 more enough to uproot and be basically a non-name for another fan base. At least he had a emotional relationship with the Carolina Panthers or the fan base. He said, so it was just weighing out, do I want to be here or do I want to go somewhere else? Do I want to be with my brothers who I went to war with, or do I want to go to another team and go to a different team and meet new people? And shoot, I'm a big loyal guy, so I stay with my brothers. I was like, man, I'd rather win with you guys. Or if I lose, I'd rather lose with y'all. I definitely want to win a Super Bowl, but I want to win one with them. I don't want to win one with nobody else. Every time I just feel almost sometimes like I'm too hard on Shaq.
I mean, I think Shaq hasn't. It hasn't felt. The problem with Shaq is that he hasn't been on a team that has won. And he hasn't felt like the game changer.
Well, he was, except for he was
like a rookie and a backup to everybody on there. He wasn't really on a team. Like when you think about since then, any winning season we had after that, it didn't feel like Shaq Thompson was really out there making these just mind-altering plays, right? And I know that's a high
of a turd.
Right.
He's been the best part of a turd for the last 4 years.
Exactly. And that's I think, and that might be why it is a bit unfair to say that he isn't a good player or worthy of the contract that he's got, or whatever. I mean, there's a lot of different things people say about Shaq Thompson, and all may be true. We don't, we have limited information at this point in time. We have the hopes that he'll be able to turn it into a career that makes him like similar to Thomas Davis, where he's able to somehow turn it on and make the fans feel energetic and become the mayor of Charlotte, as they called TD. But I think it's also fair to say that right now Shaq Thompson is just had the disadvantage of being a Carolina Panther.
I would say this too, and that's a wonderful and very sad way of putting it. The disadvantage of being a Carolina Panther. We got to put that in a short right there. Good God.
So
how sobering is that? There's two things that come to mind with Shaq, and this is, you're right. Right. First is that, remember, this podcast, or at least when I started this podcast, I always wanted it to not be journalism, right? But to be fan perspective. I wanted me to, I just didn't want to have that responsibility because I'm not that person. I'm just a fan watching the shit. So Shaq Thompson has kind of had two things going against him from my perspective. So I'm not going to speak for all Panther fans, but just for me. The first is I got so fucking hyped about him. I bought in so much, and this is what we were talking about earlier with some other players, is I set seemingly unfair expectations for Shaq personally, individually. He's the only player I've bought in their jersey before they've played a snap, except for one other player. My wife bought the jersey for me. Actually, two players. I've had three players that the purchase was made before they played a snap. My wife bought two of those jerseys for me as gifts, right? She knew I was so hype about these mugs. The first was Julius Peppers. The second was Cam Newton. The third is the one I fucking bought. Maybe I should just make Miranda buy all the goddamn.
There you go. There you go. Hey,
is this Shaq Thompson jersey because I was so in. Shaq Thompson is to me as to Isaiah Simmons is to Cody.
Yeah.
I just bought all in, and it was going to be hard for him, to live up to those expectations. But here you go, Greg. Pass the mic on this. There's one other thing that was looming, is he was also entering a fucking crazy linebacker legacy. And to be honest, I thought Dave Gettleman's doing the right thing. I thought Dave Gettleman there was a point where we thought Dave Gettleman was fucking a genius.
Yeah.
And it was 2014, 15, 16. He doubled down on he did this shit. And you go, oh man, he's ahead of the curve. I thought he was getting Shaq Thompson. The problem was his damn TD didn't fall off. TD just kept fucking playing better and better. It felt like, so he had this, he couldn't break into the lineup. And then when he did, it was like you said, CK, on a shit fucking team. And then you're like, oh,
right.
He's been better. He's one of the few players who's been, his best years have been after you wanted him to be, not want or expected him to be.
Right. Well, look, I mean, I've said my thoughts about Shaq Thompson. I just don't think he's that guy. I think that he's a talented player. I'm not by any means saying he's a bad or terrible linebacker. It's just when I look at him, I just don't think him as, the big guy. And maybe it's me being spoiled with the Carolina Panthers genuinely having a great linebacking core for most of the time that I've known them.
For our whole lifetime.
Yeah. So part of that is on me. It's like I said, I'm not saying he's a terrible guy. I just don't see Shaq Thompson being that guy. I've wanted to buy a Shaq Thompson jersey. I just never have. It's just, I don't know, man. Something about Shaq. There was something else I wanted to say too, and I forgot about it.
I just wanted him to be what I was hoping he was going to be, and that's unfair, right? And I think that might
expectations,
have those reservations too with Bryce Young. Is
but Shaq hasn't been terrible yet.
If he's not Drew Brees, he's a bust. Well, what if he's fucking one run gunner that's way better than what we get? Shaq, I'm hard on him. I admittedly am personally hard on him, but I do think this is we can't do without him, sadly.
Yeah.
Right. It's one of those things is it's better, no matter if I want to argue if he's just better than average, whatever the fuck he is. We don't have anybody behind him
Yeah. How about this?
Any fucking good.
I think
Or
that
that we know
Shaq
of.
Thompson will never be an elite linebacker, but I think Shaq Thompson could be part of an elite linebacking duo. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
You
because
put
now
another really good linebacker with him, I think that
3,
they could
4.
really wreck shop together. I think, but I just don't think by himself he's ever going to be that guy.
Put this poll up, Greg.
Okay.
Shaq Thompson, who has surprised us. Now, this isn't in the description though of the poll because it's too long, but he has surprised us by over the last 3 years in a terrible he's been the best part of the turd. He's had his best season. Is Shaq Thompson? Have we seen Shaq Thompson's best season? That's the poll.
Okay.
Have we seen Shaq Thompson's best season? The number's 252-228-5098. Let's go to the next call.
What's up, C3? It's Anthony. Quick call, part 2. Like, I completely forgot about this. Oh, my goodness. Can the national media stop disrespecting our rookie quarterback because he plays for the Panthers? Okay? Literally, if he was drafted to the Texans, they would be saying all this amazing stuff about him. It makes no sense. I listened to a podcast today, right, as I'm driving, and this lady had the audacity to say that Bryce Young is the third-ranked rookie quarterback going into the season. What are we talking about here, man? It is absolutely ridiculous. Week 1, I hope we smash the Falcons in the ass and Bryce Young has a good performance. I'm sick of this. The season needs to come here sooner or later. I'm sick of the slander, man. It's like we cannot get a break or any love from any of the national media. That's all I got to say. Anthony from Charlotte, keep motherfucking pounding.
That's a great point.
Are the Panthers disrespected?
100%.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, dude. I mean,
Panther fan.
No, it's
it's just like us. We need to say this no matter what.
No. So here's the thing: is if there is a part of it that we're expecting it, right? I think that part is true. I don't think in this case that is true because I think that Bryce Young went from being number 1 on most people's boards to all of a sudden being potentially worse than Will Levis. Like, I mean, that's just not a logical jump to me.
Oh, well, the person who we're going to play the clip, I actually have the clip, said third, but it was Stroud and Richardson are the sexy names right now.
But the Stroud, even the Richardson, like that's the dumbest thing on the planet. Richardson has the ability to do some great things as a running quarterback, right? But he has had an incredible lack of success in his collegiate career. It's absolutely hysterical that that's going to be the approach that they have with this.
Yeah. Well, and I can honestly say, I think we look at this through a different lens than the rest of the world does, being Panthers fans, being from Carolina. I mean, to be honest, if somebody came to you and told you, would you pull for a team that's been around for 30 years, never had back-to-back winning seasons?
Yeah, well,
I mean, we got to be real.
Yes, and I would say we do have one. While that is a tough argument to come back from, is like we have said this. You could say we've won 3 divisions in a row, even though you had a losing season or whatever. But here's the thing: we've had 2 Super Bowl appearances in that run,
which a lot of teams
you have
haven't,
teams that have been around for 40 years and haven't had that type of success. So you're right; it is hard to plug that in the excitement. I almost feel the Panthers getting disrespected moniker is a fan thing.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
what
getting our feelings hurt.
should like? I mean, yeah, we want other people to be excited about us? Sure. Actually, no. The times that they've been excited about us, we sucked. 2012, even Ryan Khalil took out that front page ad on the Charlotte Observer, and I had it. I mean, I thought like, oh, we're gonna be fucking good. I paid all this money. In 2010, I paid $45 for those fucking 45-yard seats. I paid $250 a ticket to go see Denver in 2012 and see Peyton Manning just fucking carve us up. We thought we were gonna be good after that.
Yeah,
but I'm not saying this is like I don't agree. I think that's part fan thing, but I would just remind people too that this is the time that Bryce Young loses the media narrative. right? And I kind of spoke on this a lot as we were going to the draft of like, you remember when we said that Bryce Young didn't like, it was like, why didn't he run the 40? Why didn't he throw? Why didn't he do this? Like, or some people said that. I was the one that said, and what I said is this is like, no matter what he did there, Anthony Richardson was going to be the prettiest girl in the room that day. Right? Is because it's a athletic contest that day. And they are, so what it is that like, I kind of think of these people as women that you are going to court and marry. And you're looking at everybody's strengths and flaws.
Yeah.
And Bryce Young is the person who is like intelligent, level-headed, takes care of you, like checks every box.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are times like it's Friday night and you're drinking beer and you want the bad girl or so like there are other attributes at other times that may appeal to you. And in the media cycle right now, the 5'10" diminutive quarterback on a team like that it's not sexy.
Right.
What's sexy is Anthony Richardson. What is also sexy is making a take that doesn't matter if you're wrong. So if you say it's a lot easier to be negative, Nelly. It really is. Like when you're a negative, like you're like, oh, so you can say this is like, oh, well, I think Stroud's gonna be better than Young, but I'm rooting for Bryce Young. So like if Stroud turns out to be better, you look good. If he's not good, you go, oh, well, I was rooting for Bryce Young all the time. So I think it's an easier take to say CJ Stroud's going to be good in the first 3 years than the safer. Like, it's like, which one has the bigger payoff and is the safety? I think that Bryce Young is the least sexy story right now.
Right.
And here is Mina Kimes, who he said this some lady. And Mina Kimes, sometimes she takes a lot of shit from people. People call her out. She's like just super brilliant. Like she turned out to be like, I think she was just a journal. Like she wasn't a football person, but like, here's the thing is like, you can watch football, you can be a sports journalist and just be super smart and you can learn how to do it. Mina Kimes, is she right or wrong here? I think this is just like, hey, you got to remember she works for ESPN and it's the dead time right now. Saying Bryce Young is the safe pick is not sexy right here. Sexy Mina Kimes. Let's hear what she's got to say.
Seen them.
CJ Stroud, I don't think he gets enough credit for his playmaking ability. I know, like everyone points to the Georgia game, like I wish he did that more.
Whoever.
I thought when given the chance, and it only happened like maybe once or twice a week at Ohio State, that he did take off and run, and he showed some ability. And I think revisiting Justin Fields' tape at Ohio State makes me reconsider what CJ Stroud did. Because we saw Justin Fields. I mean, like you said, he wasn't a good passer, but in terms of scrambling and running, it was one of the best seasons we've ever seen from an NFL quarterback. And we didn't really see that at all at Ohio State. So I'm wondering how much the system kind of restricts that playmaking.
It does.
Instinct.
Ryan Day came on NFL Live at the draft, and that was what I asked him. And he was like, yeah, we didn't ask him to. I was like, all right, fair enough. That's answered.
Right. And if that's the case, and what he did against Georgia is something he's going to be able to do consistently.
Athletically, this is something I've thought about a bit. Who would you compare him to in the NFL?
Oh, that's a good question.
Do you think let me ask you this. Do you think he's faster than Dak?
Yeah. I think he has longer strides than Dak. I would say Joe Burrow plus. Like he's a better athlete than Joe Burrow. And Joe Burrow is like just a good enough.
Nothing new. This is all recycled.
Yeah.
The NFL. I think he's there.
Yeah.
Does he have the same feel that Joe Burrow has for like?
No, he does not.
No,
I'm just saying right not. I think that's going to be really interesting for me early on is to see. I want to see the willingness to. I asked about Dak because he has a lot of similar. He's a fair amount to Dak. I think is the high end. And kind of to our discussion earlier about Dak and his reluctance to run at times. Tannehill. I think that's something I really want to see out of Stroud. Or like it's like, okay, you had this governor on you in college. Are you going to show a willingness? And also with Bobby Slowick, you have an offensive coordinator who really wants to tap into that. Okay. Seen them.
CJ Stroud.
So I feel like the Panther, it's like inadvertent disrespect.
I don't know what it was about that. There's nothing about Bryce Young in that. It wasn't.
At one point I heard them say, and I thought that was a clip, maybe I'm wrong, is that he was going to be the third over the next 3 years. I heard them say, and maybe it wasn't in that clip, but I heard a clip where it said, over the next 3 years, I could see CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson, then Bryce Young being the quarterback I wanted.
Well,
But they were acting like, oh, they were hedging their bets by saying, well, maybe in year 4, Bryce Young will be the bet.
Well, the funny thing is like it's safer to be negative about everybody else but Bryce Young, though.
World.
Bryce Young is the safest pick. Bryce Young is the safest out of all of them.
That's what we were sold.
Yes.
That's what we were sold. Yeah,
yes,
the
he was
safest pick.
like Anthony Richardson is a
project.
He is going to be there is a 50-50 shot he's going to turn out to be a starter in this league or a complete bust. And if you take his college tape into account, which again, a lot of people can make arguments for for certain things with him, but you take that into account, his statistics in college, it's not a great sign that the dude's going to be able to perform in the NFL. Like, it's just reality is that's the case. CJ Stroud is the question mark here. CJ Stroud, if he is capable of putting it all together, then he certainly has the potential to be better than Bryce Young. Let's be real about it. It was a 1A and 1B, and it was 1A Bryce Young, 1B was CJ Stroud. Right. So it's
safer to rock with Stroud right now and say this is that the Texans aren't good. He's going to be better than they gave him credit for. Really, this comes down to this, is that there is a wariness to accept that Bryce Young's intelligence is enough to overcome his size.
Right.
That's what this.
Right.
Can I ask you a question, though? If Bryce Young were 6 foot tall, would you have any reservations about his size?
But he's not.
I'd have a little less. I'd have a little less. Yes, I would.
2 inches. Do you guys realize that that's that much of a difference?
I agree.
That's the dumbest thing to have any type of reservations over.
I didn't say I wouldn't have any. I said I would have less. And no, it's not. This is a game of inches, dude.
Like, it is a game of
As
inches.
someone who is for my whole life, my whole adult life, I said I was 5'10". I thought I was 5'10". I got measured at 5'10" at one point, and I was like, I'll take it. 5'10", average human being, whatever. I went to the doctor, probably like 32 years old, and that girl, no shoes on, right? I mean, like the girl who did my height pushed that little metal piece that they do.
Yeah.
Like, she tried to plow me into the earth. Like, she literally got the most gravitational exact measurement of me. And I was 5'9" 3/4.
Yep.
And my wife had always told me, she goes, "You're not 5'10". Haha. Like, I was like, no, I'm 5'10". He's 5'10". She's like, no. I was like, no. CK, for someone their whole adult life of 15 years, thought they were 5'10" and found out they weren't 5'10". Quarter of inch fucking devastated me, dude.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is, like you said, 2 inches is not a lot. You're right. When you put it on a scale of, is it big? No, 2 inches is not big. But 2 inches some people may agree. 2 inches may make all the difference.
How tall? Look, this is a podcast of short people.
Yeah, I think
I'm
5'11". Tallest motherfucker in this.
I'm
Yeah,
5'8". Yeah.
Are you really?
I'm 5'11". I say 5'11" and a half.
Don't have no hair.
He's taller than me.
Yeah. Shit.
Well, look, I wanted to push back on one thing real quick, Tony, before we got too far away from this a minute ago, where you were talking about how people who can say, like, it's an easy way out to say, well, I think Stroud's better, but I'm really pulled for Bryce Young. I disagree. I think those are two different statements, because that's the camp that I'm in. I wanted us to draft CJ Stroud. Now, Bryce Young's my quarterback. I think he can do well, and I hope he does well. But to this moment, based on what I have, the knowledge I had being drafted and nothing new coming out, I think that CJ Stroud is going to be a better quarterback than Bryce Young. Now, I can be wrong about that in the future. Still pull for Bryce Young to be a good quarterback now. So I think those are two separate things.
Right. People don't have to change their opinion about who they thought was going to be the better quarterback. I mean, here's the thing, and this is where I think the question mark comes. I would like to see all of these people having listed the people that they thought were number 1 and number 2 and number 3 before the draft. Right. And then let's see, now that this guy's a Carolina Panther, how many have changed that tune? Because the thing is
Anthony, who brought this call up, has been a Bryce Younger from the beginning. Yeah, but you're right. Keep going.
But the people who are saying that he is number 3 on the list,
Well,
Like
maybe
that's who I
the
want to
national
see.
media, they were quiet in those moments where the super scouts were saying this is the best guy to take right here.
Right.
And they
Mhm.
weren't like, oh, they weren't big dicking it then. But now when it's safer for them to step up and make a riskier bet,
Right.
they can say that. And I guess this is what, and Greg, when you said, or in CK, you said go back and look at what people said, is I tried to always be clear that I wasn't really commenting on who would be better,
Right.
but just who I would pick.
Right.
And I would admit, like, the things that it was almost not as much what gravitated me towards Stroud. It was just like this. It was like, look, is like, are there a big difference between the two? And what is the big difference? And you know what? I've just had to reconcile now, and I'm going to just heed these people's advice.
Mhm.
I'm going to heed Anthony Piccarello's opinion. I am on their side now. And I'm like, I just said this is like, I was just concerned.
Right.
Sure. And I
Like,
think we all
like,
would. I
yeah.
was concerned too. Like, I mean, I was, if you guys recall, I was a CJ Stroud fan myself. I got won over when I watched videos, not only interviews, but also like the tape of
That's when
Young.
Bryce Young wins, bro. I'm
Yeah.
telling you, that's like that's why these people are putting him 3 right now, because this is not the time Bryce Young wins the narrative. Bryce Young will win. They're going to be changing their tune if he fucking comes out and there throws 288 yards and 3 touchdowns in his first go. Right. This is the time. And that's what I was trying to make with that analogy of the combine, is like, that's not when Bryce wins. Bryce wins in the interviews, and now it's the dead time. He got no pads on. He looked like a tiny motherfucker. Then you show this picture of Anthony Richardson rolling out, choppy, and then throwing it, and then actually being accurate. And you're like, oh, fuck, he looks like a stallion. He's the hot girl at the bar that's beautiful and sexy and turns out to be, and I'm not saying about his intelligence, but like the outside exterior overwhelms you because you got some beers in you or something. But again, this is not who's going to be better. It's just what was the best pick. And now we have to heed the advice, not only of people who have been behind this, like Anthony Piccarello, but the Carolina Panthers believed that Bryce Young was the better pick. The question is he the safer pick? Is he this or that? And if Stroud turns out to be the best quarterback of this bunch, I wonder what we'll say about those test scores where it was like, he's dumb.
PS2 test. Yep.
Yeah. And then you heard the Bryce Young. So not only do you have like this, like, oh, Stroud scored a 4 or some stupid shit on it, and then you have, oh, Bryce Young over there being super articulate. Do you get hoodwinked? We just need Bryce Young to win. And if Bryce Young comes out and wins, all these motherfuckers are going to be wrong.
Yeah. I agree.
So he's not going to win the narrative. I don't think it's disrespect. I think it's just reality. And I don't
agree. I think
he's going to win the narrative until we have points on the scoreboard.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with that. I think that's a very good point. Is like right now, Bryce Young is only going to win. He's not going to be winning right this second because they're not playing real games, right? He's not going to.
The girl your mom wanted you to marry, that was the right choice, but you went for the bad girl.
Right. And so I think I think that's a different way of looking at it that maybe I wasn't. So I agree. Maybe there isn't a piece of disrespect. I mean, I think there's probably a combination of things like that, but I think there's a potential that is very possibly not the concern here.
Would that be the sexy story either? Would it be the sexy story as you're playing this clip of a giant athletic person doing giant, wonderfully athletic things, and then you pan to the other hand where you see this little tiny person, you go, oh, well, they're so smart.
Right.
You're going to win. And look at that. Look at how accurate it is. It's just not, you have to, I know it's disrespectful in some, or at least fans take it that, but it's also the reality of the news cycle. And like, what makes a good headline in a dead time, and we are dead right now. And the only reason we're still going 2 hours and 41 minutes is because of Tony. Let's go to the next call.
What's going on, fellas? It's Corey calling in. It's been a minute since I called, but just wanted to share my thoughts and see what y'all think. It's Monday, and my main thing that I kind of wanted to talk about was I saw that Leonard Floyd got picked up, and I was like, damn. I think a lot of Panthers Nation was kind of keeping an eye out for him, seeing as we're going to try to go after Leonard Floyd. We tried to go after Clowney. But I don't know, man. It looks like we're going to run it back with this defensive core. And I guess my main point is, like, there's been a whole lot of chatter about the Panthers' new look offense and, the wide receiver core and the weapons and whether it's going to be good enough for rookie Bryce Young and all this stuff, right? But don't be surprised if this defense loses a couple games, man. And I don't want to be, a negative whatever. I don't want to be a wet blanket before the season even starts. But just to be realistic, I hope nobody's like thinking we're gonna be like a world beater team. And that I think we're gonna max out. We can max out at like 9 wins. Like I think that's like a really respectable. Keep it realistic, but also like I'm gonna have fun watching the games type of thing. I'm just not that kind of guy going into a season thinking that every player who we are thinking may be good is gonna end up being good. Like some of these guys just don't pan out, man. That's how shit works. But anyway, like my point was, I just feel like our defense, man, like we obviously have playmakers, we have great players on this defense, but he kind of chose to run it back with some of these guys, like I don't like YGM and Marquise Haynes, like that's our edge rusher beside of Brian Burns. Like our DBs, our cornerbacks beside of Jaycee Horn is, Dante Jackson coming off an Achilles and CJ Henderson coming off his fucking second number change in 2 years. Like all the moves that we made and the personnel changes we made within the last year to go out and get Bryce Young and get these drafts, all this different stuff. Like, there's never going to be a 1-year turnaround. But I'm kind of thinking, like, where's the solid, cheap veteran? Like, where's that linebacker? Where's that edge rusher? The Von Bell of linebackers, the Shy Tuttle of edge rushers. Like, where's that guy at? I don't know. It's getting to that point to where I'm like, all right, I guess we just kind of going running back to where we still got to see. But yeah, I feel like this defense is going to be they can be surprisingly not as good as we hope. So let me know what y'all think, man. It's Corey calling. Keep on. Appreciate y'all.
Thank you, Corey, for the call. Great call. Ends right on time as we continue to talk about how this team is going to look, what the holes that are going to need to be filled and are the Panthers done in this offseason. I don't think they're done, and I think that he brought this up as a cheap veteran. Is that, like, we're waiting. If you're going to pay these 31, 32, 33, 34-year-old guys, let's wait and let's get them, and just say this. You want $4 million? You want a job or not? But I do come back to, just because we're not doing it now, I almost feel like maybe we're paper GMing it too much by needing this signing.
Right.
Because if you add this veteran player right now, what does it really do for this team? It first pencils them in ahead of these other players at a time where you don't need the veteran to really be in. You want them, if they're going to be on the team, to be in training camp and, like, learning and shit. But they're not going to be the ones benefiting from OTAs and these moments of, this is the time to try to cultivate more and more of those younger players. And then if you get to the point in training camp where you start to feel like, just don't feel comfortable here, now we'll start thinking. So like, what would it do to, how about this is, like, if you get 3 weeks into training camp and you go and sign a veteran defensive end, what does that do to the psyche of Marquise Haynes, or maybe the, kind of their emotions? And I know that you're not trying to just placate people, but imagine if you did it today and they're already like, oh shit, they don't think I'm going to be good. or can do it. And my last point, CK, is I think he's right, is that the defense isn't going to, like, there could be moments where this defense isn't great, but this defense has been largely overrated for the last few years.
Yeah.
And I have been one of those people that's been saying, like, they're not as good as they say they are. If Matt Rule came out and be like, they're the number 2 defense, they're number 2. Bullshit. I watched that team. They were not a number 2 defense. The thing about that defense was they were the best fucking part of the team.
Yeah.
And now I think this is that if he is right, if Corey's right, CK, I think now it's time for the offense to be the best part of the team. And yes, the defense could have that average or moments where they let you down, but now it's time for us and our number 1 draft pick and our fucking investment in these whatever other skill players. It's time for us to score more than we can't just say, hey, what was the stat they had about, like, we were whatever and whatever if they scored more than 17 points on us? Like, we can't be that team anymore.
I think that's everybody's stat, not just ours. I think you're like you have less likely chance to win if you let 17 points. Yeah.
Like, we need our offense to be respectable. We can't have this defense is like I think it would be unfair to say they need to be a top 10 defense.
Well, not even just that. I mean, the fact is 17 points isn't a lot, right? And the fact that our offense couldn't score 17 points in a game,
right,
if our defense let another offense score 17 points,
24, we thought we were a fucking bonanza.
Right. Like, that is just absolutely that's just an abysmal performance by an offense, right? So right now, by all accounts, our offense should be better. At least that's the hope. And that should take some pressure off of the defense. Now, think about this. If you're the defense and your offense can't get anything done and you're constantly on the field, sure, you're going to get tired at the end of the game. I think there's some things that can make it impact.
The excuse we've made for this defense as they've tired out throughout the.
Yes, but there's been no answer.
Them, right? Yeah. I mean, it's like they've exceeded expectations. It's time for our offense to exceed expectations.
Yeah.
Agreed.
He brought up CJ Henderson. And I gotta say, this is, I think we need this girl in our secondary.
A very loud crowd here at T-Mobile Arena. Obviously,
Samantha
Vegas fans
Rivera.
enjoying the less than ideal night for the Panthers. You don't want to be, all right? Let's get into the highlights here.
Yep.
I tried to blow up her shot. She said, hell no. She said, nope. Not only is she gorgeous, she can box out.
Hell yeah.
Box out. Good for you. Not, you know what? CJ Henderson would have fell asleep there.
Yeah.
Fell asleep. I don't know why. Where's the forvert? Nope, that's not it. Cody, where are you?
Bryce is the guy, and there's so much evidence to back it up.
Down arrow there. There we go. Here, this is what I was hoping for. I think I took the. All right. It's time for our defense to fuck it. I mean, you know what? I don't want our defense to be bad, but if our defense, to me, this is my point on the defense. If our defense is top 20, right, is like, it's time for us, but we needed our defense to be top 15 in the past, top 10. It's time for our offense, like, for us to have average or better than average on both sides of the ball. It's time for us to not say we got to hold you to under 20 to have a chance to win. The number's 252-228-5098. Nobody has called in with what they thought that Steve Smith was saying. That really makes me sad. Here is my son.
Yo, it's White Chocolate Espresso. What's happening? Listen, I'm talking about Clowney. I'm defending my man, my boy. Yo, in 2016, that man was 6th in tackles for loss overall. In 2017, 2nd overall for tackles for loss. 2018, 7th for tackles for loss. So that tells me he knows how to get in the backfield. He's always been a run stuffer. He got the whole hype in college because of the hit he had. Which, remember, it wasn't a sack. That big hit he had in Michigan, it was a run. He hit the running back. Clowney's always been a run-stuffing defensive end. That's where he made his money in South Carolina. So, and he's also played outside linebacker for like 2 years, which is why I think he should come here, because we're going 3-4. He could play outside linebacker if we need him, or he could play defensive end. I want the dude. I think he can be got for about the most $8 million, which even then I don't think we have to pay that, because he went for $10 million last year. I'm telling you, he will do what we need to do. He will do the dirty work. And to me, he went to a situation last year where he didn't want to be in. I think he would like to be in this situation. But that's my thoughts on Clowney. Peace.
You know, he's he's the one that I am most interested in out of that bunch.
Sure.
Because I think you just know what you're getting. You know, you're getting a player that you believe is a strong plug, but not a solution for a long term. Kev says in the chat, he says, correction, 2016, he was first. 2017, he was second. 2018, he was 11th. He's 65th all time and 18th among active players for tackles for loss. He's a disruptor.
Sure.
But I mean, I think is that if you're talking old guys anyway, right? Is like, why don't you just pay the guy that you know? Like, it's like going and getting a Honda, a car. It's like, it's got mileage on it, but you know what you're getting. You know what you're getting there. I'm all right with it. Did you see? So we got some starred comments. Thank you, Greg. Did you guys mention the Shaq Thompson one?
No, we didn't. I started that a long time ago, and I wanted to bring that up. That was the other point. I knew there was 2 points I wanted to bring up with Shaq Thompson. That was the other point. It just reminds me of it. And I don't know if this is real, but Booker brought up that
no, it's exactly real, and I know
real.
the reason why.
Wow. Shaq Thompson played a few games in minor league baseball. Played 39 at bats, 0 hits, 37 strikeouts. I was never good at batting in baseball, but
no,
wow.
I mean, in a sport where if you hit 250, you're like awesome.
Right.
So like 1 out of 5, basically, you're very good at that sport. The reason Shaq Thompson even said this, it's awesome. He said this, I can't hit a curveball. So there was just like, he had a devastating thing. He's like but it was just like, man, they just found out I can't hit the curve and they get me in 2 strikes and they're throwing the curve. I'm striking out.
It's the hardest thing to do in sports is hit a baseball.
Really?
It really is. Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Golf?
No, golf's not it's the hardest thing to be able to.
Sport of golf is no, you're right, probably.
Yeah, I think because think about it, you've got to in some cases judge something coming at you from 60 feet away at 95 miles an hour.
I hope it's 90 feet
and determine
away.
No, it's 90 feet away to the base.
So, and it's coming at 95
miles an hour. You don't know where it's coming, and you've got to time where to put your bat. That's the hardest thing to do in sports, hit a baseball. Just single thing to do. It's got to be.
Most difficult position, quarterback.
I could say that, yeah.
Hardest thing to do is hit a baseball, and most difficult sport to be great at, golf? I don't know. Tough questions.
Yeah, maybe.
Let's go to the next call as CK reflects on the golf comment. And boy, you better talk about this live
a PGA merger, dude.
Let's go. We haven't heard this, but tell me if we've heard it.
Hey, how's it going, guys? This is Coach Kurt. It's been a while since I called in, but I've been tuning in on the Friday free for all. I just want to give you guys a little story that happened, little situation that happened not too long ago. So I was in Chili's with my wife and kid, and I looked over to the screen, right? And there was the sports center and the sports analysts were talking about the season the Buccaneers were going to have. And it was a 7-win season, and they were going through their schedule, and they predicted them to beat the Carolina Panthers both times this season. I walked up to the manager, and I was like, turn that shit off. I was like, that is the most delusional shit I've ever seen. Mind you, I'm not even in North Carolina anymore. I'm moved back to Virginia because I'm about to go into the military, do my training and shit. But he goes, oh, you must be a Panthers fan. I'm like, no shit, I'm rocking my Panthers fucking hat and everything. And he's like, man, you guys are garbage. And I was like, you know what? Now, I got up, we got out of the seat, and I wasn't that pressed. But then they were talking mad shit. And I was like, bitch, you have our sloppy seconds. 90% of your team is our sloppy seconds. And we got the fuck out of Chili's. Anyway, fucking went and ate at fucking Red Robin. But
I need to go get my free burger.
yeah, like these guys, these sports analysts, I mean, they get paid to fucking vomit bullshit, and then turn around and the past couple of weeks are leaked of trashing fucking Baker Mayfield, throwing absolute ducks, overthrowing the receivers with no pressure, with no DBs on the receivers, and they're supposed to beat us twice this year. Dude, I'm sick and tired of the Panthers slander. All right, I'm about to get heated just talking about it. All right, see you. Catch y'all later.
Yeah, it's
That's where it becomes real. It's not about not talk. It's about who you are also just AKA giving credit to by accident.
Yeah, no, that's the part of it. I think that like the disrespect. I mean, that part of it is too. Like, media is not only the ones giving disrespect. It's like we have to live day-to-day lives, and people like constantly are talking about everybody. Like he said he's in Virginia, and that person was like, "You guys are garbage," right? But there's a good chance that they're probably Commanders fans if they're living in Virginia. And if that's the case, like, in what world do you feel like you have any position to stand on saying that we're garbage? Like, you have no quarterback whatsoever. And like,
I have not had. That's the one team I don't get any. And I have some I call them Redskins still, but I have some friends that are lifelong fans of that team, and they have never talked shit to me. Like, they recognize, they're smart enough to know that while they don't have to suck the Panthers D, they know their shit is deficient. Is there a team that's getting more antiquated in their legacy than the Commanders? Like, if you guys are talking shit about the fucking Cowboys
right
over puffing their legacy, the Redskins or Commanders haven't been good since they won a Super Bowl in like 80 what? 5? Like, man, it was a long time ago. The first black quarterback to win a Super Bowl. They didn't even have another good run until Gibbs came around.
Early 90s. Yeah, they had a pretty good run then.
Maybe. No, I mean, Gibbs was in the 2000s. Like, I mean, I wonder, is there a team that had a good history? The Bears, maybe. Maybe the Bears are in there, is like had a good history at some point, but now that good history is so far in the fucking rear view. Like, it's untenable to hold on to. The number's 252-228-5098. Didn't get one call about the Steve Smith thing. Very disappointed. We may have to meme contest that.
What do you meme? Yeah, we can just do a
Hey guys,
meme.
it's Coach Cody again. I just wanted to give you another call about the fact that Leonard Floyd is currently, as of yesterday, off the market and is going to the Buffalo Bills, which is fucking fantastic. That's what all of the NFL needs. And I feel like, Clowney and that Colts, and I forgot his name.
Yana
or something like that. But, and D-Hop, like, these guys are going to start going because as soon as someone like Leonard Floyd gets a contract, then everybody else is going to feed after those other edges that are available. And we already know it's a bidding war for fucking D-Hop. So I feel like just with the cap that we have, that we just got to go in and make offers. Like, Clowney, I don't think should be super expensive because I feel like at this point it's just a name. Like, he can bring experience and stuff like that and could be a good compliment to Brian Burns on the opposite side. But I don't think it should be that expensive because he's getting a little older up in age at the edge position. Or we need to fucking it's going to suck, but I think we got to make a big time offer for obviously D-Hop. But if none of these work, if we don't get a solid offer and sign at least D-Hop or one of the two edges that are available, then we just gotta put that bag on fucking Brian Burns' shoulder and let that man walk away happy as shit coming into the season, a lot more confident with a contract, because we've seen in the past what players do when they don't get a nice bag when they deserve it. But yeah, just my thoughts and opinions. Let me know what y'all think. All right, y'all. Bye.
Well, I think that brings up a good question. We have the second most cap space in the NFL right now, as of this moment, for the remainder of this league year. What do you want to see happen is number one. And like he said, number two, if that doesn't happen, do you feel comfortable saying, all right, what we can do for Brian Burns is give him a massive signing bonus so he gets the money that he's looking for up front load that cost in this year's cap situation? If you can't get any of these big time free agents, then that way you can make it a lot easier for next year when you have to worry about Derrick Brown or any of these other guys out there that you might be wanting to re-sign.
Yeah, I like the idea. I mean, that's a good idea right there. But it really just all boils down to the question of, do you want to give Brian Burns the money?
Yes, you have to.
know?
First, we don't have a choice. We have zero choices.
we're going to-
just sit here arguing about us needing to sign a 34-year-old DM desperately.
Right.
The hell,
You got the
Brian
guy right
Burns.
here.
We have to have Brian Burns on this team. But I think, CK, I'm starting to go to the position is that maybe we are getting our hopes up too much as fans about what the season should be or could be.
Right.
And let's hope that the season's better than expectations. But let's not forget that, like, if we don't win this year, we're like, this year ain't the only year. And I just looked up how much of the salary cap you can roll over, and you can roll over as much as you can. There's not a limit on it. So I'm starting to wonder is that unless you get somebody at we probably could benefit from having a player that we know has played in the league and been successful.
Sure.
But at the same time, is that paying too much for that house right now? It's like buying a house in this market. You're overpaying for it, and shit's going to potentially come down. And then, like, what are you really going to get out of it? Are you going to get a year where the best theoretically is you make the playoffs and you're like, oh shit, everybody surprised us? Or are you really trying to have a good year this year and then really have great seasons 2 and 3 years down the road? So I think I'm starting to lean to the point of this is like not discount. Yeah, discount. I don't want to pay nothing for no 34-year-old defensive end. Fuck that.
Well, I can agree with you on that, but what do you mean when you say you can roll over as much as you want? Because
so you have a cap of, like, say $212 million or whatever the number is. And if we spend 187, whatever the difference that we don't spend,
37
it's added to our budget next year.
Not true.
It says this.
No. Well, it means it's 37. No, well, hold on. It's 37 million that you're going to have available for next year. You're right, but the way you're wording it is incorrect, because the way you're wording it means that, like, if next year the salary cap's 212 again, then we get to add 37 million to that 212, which is not true. That just means that 37 million is available for us within that salary cap of 212 next year, which basically just means if you don't spend it next this,
Well, what does that even mean? Like, no,
it means if you don't spend it this year, you have it next year to spend. Is all that means.
Well, we have a billionaire owner. We always have the money.
No, not with salary cap.
It says salary cap. It says, all right, this is what I Googled. Here, let's read. Oh, I'll read this. Hold on. Actually, it says this. So what happens to, and we'll figure this out, is what happens to unused salary cap? NFL teams are allowed to roll over any unused cap space from one season to the next. Clubs must tell the league that they plan to roll over the cap space by 4 p.m. on the day after their regular season finale. While the NFL has a salary cap, it also has a salary floor. So teams cannot hold on to money in perpetuity. Teams must spend at
Right.
least 89% of their cap over a 4-year period, while the NFL as a whole must spend 95%. That sounds to me like you do get an extra 13. Like you actually want to come in.
No,
If
there's a
you get
hard cap.
5 million from last year, you get, instead of 212, you got 217.
No, you every year
Where did you hear differently?
because that's the way it's always worked. Every year you have, let's say the salary cap's $212 million. Like you said, we spent, that means that next year coming in, we have that $37 million that we spent the other bit that's going in to roll into next year. The price for that. Okay. So you
I don't
take
understand what rolls then. If you only get 212, what the fuck rolls?
the stuff you didn't use, but it rolls back into the salary cap that you're still under. It's what I'm
I don't
saying. It's a
understand
tricky
what
way
that
of
means.
it's a tricky way of wording it. All it's saying is if you don't use it, you get to use it next year. It's like saying if I keep this $37 in my wallet, next year I get to keep this $37, but I
But
have
if
a
you have
maximum
a
of spending
budget of
$212.
$140
Mhm.
and you said this is I spent $100 this year. I
Mhm.
want to roll my 140 into next year. And you say, well, you have a 140 budget. That's not rolling, especially if you had an income of like you could have covered the 140 anyway. You're going to spend 140.
I
That
agree.
doesn't make
That's what I'm
sense to
saying.
me, Greg.
It's worded
Okay,
incorrectly.
what do you
Like
think?
Google can you have more money than the salary cap? That'll answer the question
You
right there.
Google it. I just
Okay.
read the dang rule.
Okay. I
Well,
got
actually, it
you.
was from Pro Football Talk, but Pro Football Network. Let's see.
Let's see, can
Salary
NFL
cap rollover.
can NFL teams go over the salary cap? Exceeding the salary cap is not an option for NFL teams. The new year begins, they must be under the cap.
So I guess the question is, because I know there is the potential for the rollover. I don't know the specific rules of
Doesn't
that
make
rollover.
sense if you only have a budget of $100
Mhm.
and I spend $80 this year,
Mhm.
and the budget is $100 next year, and you say I get to roll over the extra money, but I got $100 anyway next year. I just have the same fucking budget. I just should have just spent the $20.
What you're saying makes sense, but it's just I just know it's not the way it is. Like you can't roll over money and go over the salary cap. I think that the rule they had in there where you have to spend 89% of your cap anyway is probably what prevents that people from doing that, from just sucking for a few years and not paying anybody, and then having a year where you have like a $212,000 million salary cap to blow. But I just know that you can't go over the salary cap. Like, so I think that I understand what you're saying because I agree with you, but I think that was just worded wrong. I think the rollover is what's getting us here, and I
I
don't
want
think
you to
rollover is the
find the
right choice of word.
exact wording of the rollover because I just don't understand that. CK, you are in money. Do you understand what I'm saying, CK? Is like if my budget doesn't roll, then the word rollover shouldn't be used.
Right. I think that's where we agree.
But 11% of $212 million is a significant amount of money.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
I
So,
get
like,
it.
if
Yeah.
you could roll over 5% of 200 million, what is that? So that would be $10 million. That's a fucking Jadeveon Clowney next year or something.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right.
I
Okay.
personally feel like the benefit
I
of front loading Brian Burns' contract and then having a manageable salary after that is
Agreed.
worth it for everybody, more
Agreed.
so than trying to roll over.
Well, no. I mean, like, well, yeah, is that maybe I guess you wouldn't roll over. It would be like, could we do that and roll over? I guess I'm saying is the question
love
of
to,
is
yeah.
us getting a 1-year rental for $10 million. Is it going to really change our team's trajectory as much as that $10 million could help next year? That's all I'm asking. And that is if it goes to Brian, if you're talking about allocating it to Brian Burns or something, that's different than what I'm talking about. But
Right. Well, I'm just saying, like right now, we have the second most cap space. Number one.
we do.
that means a couple of things. We have the opportunity to trade for people in the middle of the season. We have the opportunity to get people's long-term deals done, early in the off season or late in the off season, or maybe even in the middle of the season. But I think the hope is from all fans is that we're going to be signing some free agents to make this defense or even our offense look better, right? I think right now the main two things people are clamoring for are D-Hop or an edge guy opposite Burns, right? So if none of those are options, what do we do? Do we sit on the second most cap space for the rest of this year? I mean, that's money. It might be able to roll over again, would depend upon the
And when we
circumstances.
say second most cap space, does that actually mean a ton of money? And now I'm starting to think of the reverse position that I was advocating for is like, it is us saving ultimately $3 million this year and having $3 million next year. Is that really a savings that is worth not getting a player who could really contribute this year?
That's the question.
It's like we have $6 million. We could have spent $9 million, but we fucking saved the $3 million and we spent $6 million. It's almost like you should just pay what you want rather than it's almost like when I go to a restaurant and I want to order the fucking seafood and I'm like, oh, well, the chicken's $2 less.
But I guess where's the you got to play the long game too, and that's where I think the tough part is like there's going to be a team that halfway through the season they're going to be on a fire sale, right before the trade deadline. They're going to do what we did with Christian McCaffrey, and they might have a salary that many teams can't afford, but having the second most cap space available might allow you to actually make a trade like that, right? And I'm again, these are just hypothetical situations. So do you want to go and spend that money in the off season, or do you really want to have the potential, like you said, to roll over or sit on that money? Again, I don't know. I genuinely don't know the right answer to this. Right?
I think I do. And I think the right answer right now is that if we don't do it in the next week or two, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Like, is that just would make us feel better today. But is us signing Justin Houston or whoever the fuck, whatever name you want to pick, who is this or that, if we sign them in a month, is that really a different, you know what I mean? Like, is like the longer we wait, probably ideally we get the better financial deal. So like, just because we're not doing it right now doesn't mean that it's financially unwise. All right, here's the last call of the night.
Jaycee podcast is JJ back with another call, and I wanted to call for this week because I had a question on the Friday free for all that a lot of people said it was a pretty good question. They liked it. It was about Bryce Young and expectations, and I said, how fair is it to really ask of Bryce Young to be the best player on the team this coming season for his rookie year? Is it fair to ask for him to be a better quarterback than Brian Burns is a pass rusher, or Jaycee Horn is a cornerback, etc.? You get the deal. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about was Brian Burns' contract and how everyone's so worried about him getting Myles Garrett money when him and Max Crosby basically put up the same amount of numbers or production over the past couple years. And Max Crosby gets paid like $1.5 million less per season. So it's relatively going to be the same market for Brian Burns throughout the entire time. That's really it, teachers. Keep pounding. Let me know how y'all feel about that. Have a great week. Keep pounding, Panthers fans.
Right on time, actually. Great call. Great timing. Thank you, JJ. Hey, really just become a family member in the C3 family right away. He's the little baby brother. He's our baby brother. The Friday free for all, guys, is a slugfest. You gotta have a thick skin in there, and sometimes I'm not ready for it. But he brought up this is I don't know if there are this is a hard question for me about Bryce Young, guys.
Yeah.
I don't need him to be the best player on our team from day one, but he needs to be the best player on our team.
Mhm.
And I don't know, is like if it doesn't happen on week 1 and it's not that means it's not going to happen, but he's the number 1 overall pick. He's a quarterback. It's the most important position. If he is the best player on the team, he's going to get $1 bazillion in 5 years.
Mhm.
I need him to be that. I need him to be what all the people who love him and said, and all the people now who are like picking the sexy person. I need him to just be that. I need him to be the stock that we bought, that everybody told us we should buy, sound company, and then 5 years later, this company's fucking thriving. But I am placing very high expectations on him early, guys. And I don't want to say it's unfair, though, because that's what we drafted him for. If we wanted to draft a player who we said their upside was down the road, we would have drafted Anthony Richardson.
Yeah.
But we drafted the guy who's supposedly the best now and going to give you the best crazy intangible thing. Whether it's fair or not, have the highest of expectations for Bryce Young. And I wrote a story for Carolina Cat Chronicles about this. Is I think my expectations are higher for Bryce Young than they were for Cam Newton.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there. No, I'd have to think about that one for a minute, and I don't. But I'm right there with you on the. Yes, I expected 100% him to be the best player on this team because that was what I was sold, and that's what I wanted. That's what I wanted to be. That's what we paid for.
It's not even just what we were sold. That's what we paid for. We
got rid of one of our best players, like definitely one of the best players on our team.
Draft picks
and draft picks to get this guy. We moved up. This is the guy. He knew what he was coming in for. This is what we got him for. So
if he's Kirk Cousins, he's a bust.
Yeah, I agree. I hate to say it like that, and I really do. And I hate to put the pressure on him. And I know I hate the guy, but
who was the other? I guess. Actually, it was Chicago that drafted. What did they draft? What that dude second or first? He's now with the Steelers, or he was with the Steelers. He might not even be there anymore. Not Tannehill. Tannehill was the Dolphins. Bortles was Jacksonville. Who was the guy that the Bears drafted real high? I think he came from Carolina. Come on, you guys aren't helping me at all. Trubisky, yes.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, I mean, think of this. It's like you can't just be. All right, was Alex Smith a bust at number 1?
Yes.
Depends on who you ask.
Yes, he was.
Yes.
Because his career wasn't good till he went to Kansas, really.
Right.
And even there, he didn't.
I mean, he was good. I mean, better than that. You have to be great. I have the highest of expect. I mean, I'm sorry, Bryce Young has got to slay, and he hasn't got to slay from moment 1, but he's got to slay.
Yeah,
that's it. All right, that's the C3 Panthers podcast brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com. We usually do the news, but the only thing in the news really, I think, worth talking about, unless you guys got something, maybe is Dalvin Cook. There's going to potentially be a Dolphin and make a super fucking team over with the Dolphins. But at the same time, I think this is a smart move. And I don't even know if this guy, I don't know who this guy is. It says Dolphins starting offensive lineman. So I don't even know what fucking position he plays on the offensive line. Is holding out mandatory minicamp, seeking new contract. Smart time for an offensive lineman to big dick the team, right? Is like, if you're going to go out and make a super team, like, what if you said this is like, hey, I mean, you can't do it with that offensive line. Is like, do you want to really do this, or you want to give me what I want? I don't know. I don't think there's any. Is there any other NFL news that you guys need to talk about?
I mean,
no,
that was just all that speculation stuff. But other than that, no.
That was interesting. You said Dalvin Cook might go to Miami because he played in Florida State, didn't he?
Yeah, and let me just speak. Oh, I guess the other thing when it comes to the NFL, actually, this is news that needs to be mentioned because it might become a big, big story or at least a bigger story down the road, is they're investigating now a cornerback from the Indianapolis Colts for gambling. You had like 3 or 4 players with the Lions who were like, and now the players are saying we didn't know the rules, which I saw somebody say that was the Lions' fault. I don't believe that. It's like, we all know that you're not supposed to gamble if you're a fucking player.
Just don't
We
gamble.
know. Now, is it
Yeah.
fair for you to not be able to? Can they not gamble on other sports? Now, that's the question. Was it other sports? Was it different? They got in trouble for playing DraftKings or whatever, and they were making the plays. It might even been on the, but they were in the team facility, and that's against the rules. Like, you can't gamble in the locker room, even if it's baseball or something. But
But I
now
just-
it's starting to go that they might be gambling, or at least this Colts guy, the investigation is starting to say that maybe it was on sports. And I heard that reports are that there are more and more people that they have their eye on, and wait until it hits a marquee player. And it's just a weird it's kind of odd, because the NFL also promotes gambling.
Right.
So, I mean, watch that story. Do you think, and I'll just end this, I'll just ask you your position on this, CK.
Yeah.
Should NFL players be able to gamble on other sports?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't even think it's that hard of a question. Like, I think that I don't think that there should be that much of a restriction. Like, even with Calvin Ridley, like, he wasn't playing. The idea of being able to gamble, like, it just seems kind of odd. Now, the part of it that is tough is if he's in like the team facility and he's like betting against this team, then like he might know something or whatnot, and that might be a competitive disadvantage, or it might like be insider trading or something like that. But if I just can't imagine. I would like to see what this is, because when I looked at Isaiah Rodgers' like post about making a mistake and I want to be better, like it sounded like it's way worse than what we've heard so far.
I think there is, Greg, a real concern about them betting on the NFL at all, even if it's not their own team.
Oh, yeah.
And I also think there is a concern, and it might be unfair because you're saying, hey, everybody else gets to gamble, right? But the world isn't fair. But I do think this is it's kind of like the gambling propaganda, that it's very sanitary to gamble. Like, it's like, oh, it's just like everybody bets. It's legal. It's like, fine. It's fine. And it is in a one-off situation. Gambling is 100. It's like drinking a beer in a healthy situation. It is healthy. But we know in so many of these cases that it is an unhealthy thing for people. And what I mean by that is, like, the average beer drinker doesn't just drink one beer. The average gambler doesn't just place one bet. So it's not about the bet they place today. It's about the bet they place in a year and a half when they're down $40,000.
When they're doubling into nothing,
Right.
Yeah, they're on baseball, and now they're like, oh shit, I gotta do something. So it's just like, that's the concern is, and then the irony of this is that it also recognizes the unhealthiness of it in general as the NFL promotes it.
Well, I mean, that's always going to be a concern, but I mean, what's the other option? Is just to completely ban it, or to put so many restrictions? That's the only other option, right? Just completely ban it. So, because
it's like, you can't smoke weed if you're in the NFL. It doesn't matter if you're in a state that's legal or not.
So that's basically saying that because some people can't handle it and some people can't do it, you should punish everybody and make it illegal for everybody.
you protect,
like,
But my job does.
And I understand. Like, I understand NFL players not betting on NFL games. I think that if you're an NFL player, you should be able to bet on other sports. I have no problem with that. I wonder what is what's the ruling on like the rest of the staff and the teams, like the coaches, the doctors, the staff.
Another great question that we don't think about.
Are they allowed to bet on NFL games? Because that's an interesting question, because I think they would have a lot of inside information, just like a player would.
I don't think it's even a question if you should be able to bet on the sport of football. My question is, should you just be able to be involved in gambling, period?
Well, I think they should, but let's be fair too. These players are getting suspended for a year or season, which sucks. It's very bad. But look at Pete Rose. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
but
like
these are
you
nobody players. Pete Rose too was the man. Yeah. All right.
he was
Well,
betting
just
on
keep an eye on
yeah.
that story. Keep an eye on that
Yeah.
story. Let's go to the I mean, we didn't have a lot of news. Well, on purpose. Let's see this. How do I
We're
find?
still at 12:30.
Right. Yeah.
Oh shit. I know. My fault, guys.
No, it's
Longest
not.
running segment on the longest running podcast.
Ice up, son. Ice up.
It's time for us to ice up someone, tell them toughen up to get it together. The longest running segment on the longest running podcast on the longest running show, because your host likes to talk, and that's what podcasts are built for.
Yep.
Go ahead, guys. I got to load you guys up with some great ones tonight. So, I mean, if you guys are ready, you don't got nothing. CK,
I think I'm like CK. I don't think I have anything either, man.
Gosh, I feel like we should always ice you guys up.
I'm just
I usually have one, but
my biggest issue is like I'm constantly doing stuff, and so like when I do see something, I think about it. And I'm like, oh, that's gonna be good, and then I just forget to save it, or
you got to
something along those
bookmark it.
lines. Yeah,
you got to bookmark it, and now you have a bookmark folder that you can do that I've been doing.
Let's see if I can go through.
So I bookmark this. Here is my first ice up pick goes to this homeboy.
I got one. I do have one.
I don't mind a girl with some curves, but don't make her feel silly about it. This mug is just on this. It's just into this love. I wouldn't call that a love handle. And he is into this girl's soul here. It's my first one. Ice up to that dude. That poor girl just taking that, like just dealing with it. My next ice up pick, this one's right up my lane, guys. This is like my typical ice up pick. Cody always says I have a affinity for people just getting fucking hurt on the internet. This shit is wild. Ice up to I hurt my back this past weekend. It sucks, but like not only, everybody should, I would take care of your health, but like don't try to be super crazy and shit. Sometimes look at this guy. Whatever this shit he's lifting.
Oh gosh. That leg's broken.
He's out.
Oh. Oh.
Oh man.
Oh. Throwback. Good God.
Yeah.
Man. What a dummy. Is this an ice up pick, CK? I don't know if this one is or not. Like I don't know who to ice up in this one.
Yeah.
It says this, as I saw this tweet. Says he said my income has become lower and lower over the years due to rising cost of living, and family but has become bigger and bigger. Musa Hashaya is a 68-year-old man from Uganda. He has 12 wives and fathered 102 kids. Well, of course, shit got more expensive, motherfucker. Like, I don't know who to ice up there. I don't know who to ice up. Should we congratulate him? Should that be something more than that? And I had two more. I know it's crazy. CK's like, I fucking hate you.
No, you're fine. I got one as well.
So this is Martin. No, this was Matthew Tkachuk getting kicked out of the Stanley Cup. He had two 10-minute majors or whatever, which is like getting 2 techs or whatever the rule is, where you're going to get kicked out automatically. This is what they kicked him out for. And in a sport that I love, hockey, that they let these motherfuckers basically do everything half the time.
In between Matthew Tkachuk's goal and ejection, a row was thrown on the ice
Watch
by one of the
this. So
Panthers
not
fans
that,
here in the
not that.
building,
Here
and Matthew
comes.
Tkachuk perhaps
It's him
sending a
leaving.
message
Look,
to the Vegas bench of what awaits them down in South
he
Florida for
knocked the
games 3 and
guy's
4,
stick
and there's in between
at
Matthew
stick
Tkachuk's
out
goal
of the head.
Wow.
the Vegas bench of what awaits them down in South Florida
Boom.
for games 3 and 4.
They hit
and
him there.
Wow. Yeah.
So screw that. The NHL, and this is my favorite. This is the one.
Oh God.
This is the one that I had two that were right up my alley. The tweet said this is how unlucky do you have to be this person?
Oh my God.
So to recap this for people who are listening right now, we're looking at a stop sign and intersection where somebody's riding like a Vespa or a scooter. They get hit by a car. That sucks already, right?
Right.
So they get in an accident, they get hit by a car, but look, as they go flying, the person falls into the drain. That
the human-sized
space,
drain. Yeah.
the 1 foot space that it's already hard enough to get in.
Like
How?
sinking a long putt. Look. It's in the hole. It's like sinking a long putt right there. That was crazy.
Ice up to bad luck. That's what Jaycee would say. Those are my ice up picks.
You got one there, Greg?
I don't. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I got one. There's a town near me called Franklin County. And as you can imagine, it is I don't know. I feel like most places that are called Franklin County are going to be super duper like country, right? Well, there's a sheriff in this here town that happened to go on a cruise with his family. And he had his daughter sitting on his lap, and there was a gentleman who noticed that his hand was a little close to a place on his daughter's body that no dad or man should ever be that close to. And so he started videotaping it, showed it to the ship, the ship crew. They also had video of this. The FBI was waiting for him in Miami when they returned. By the way, he's a sheriff. There's a lot of people like supporting him, and the dude, like, there's a lot. The reason this is so damaging and why this is an ice up is like after his daughter got up and went somewhere else, he had to sit there with his hands on his lap. You catching my drift?
Cover
Like,
his boner.
yeah, like you could tell that like there was no other reason to put your hands where basically where that was. And he sat there for a few minutes until it was all clear, right? Now I'm always a fan of giving due justice and letting him be innocent until proven guilty. What I am not a fan of is an entire community of people rallying behind this man, saying like he's such a good person. There's no way that this like there's so much evidence to the contrary that this guy is predatory towards his own daughter, and they've raised GoFundMe. They created a GoFundMe to be able to help him be able to survive. They've raised like $10,000. GoFundMe finally caught on, and they shut down the GoFundMe site. But I just want to say to people like that. I mean, again, we don't know the extent of what has taken place, behind closed doors, but from the understanding, I mean, it was enough to have the FBI waiting for him in Miami when they got back from their cruise to take him into custody. So to that gentleman and anybody who's just blindly following people because you know them as part of the community, ice up.
I hope the people that donated to his GoFundMe used a VPN, because I'm saying check their hard drives, bitches. Like,
right.
And how the heck does a parent have enough? I mean, I don't even know if that's the right word, enough self-control to handle that in the most sophisticated way rather than like murdering them.
No, this was the dad.
Right.
And
oh,
his
the
daughter
dad was doing it?
Yeah. The dad had his daughter on his lap.
Diddling the
right.
Even
But he
worse.
like the thing is like he's claiming that it's that it was all like there was nothing wrong with it. But in the same interview, he said, I probably would have punched another guy in the face if I saw them doing that to my daughter. And I'm like,
no tolerance for family weird shit.
No,
it's the weirdest thing to me.
Yeah.
Not weird, the worst. You know what I'm saying? But nope.
Bad. Yeah.
All right, ice up to
Got nothing.
Ice up to Greg. Cody's at the ballet checking out David Dotto. Don't tell him I said that. Actually, we're gonna make it the David Dotto, aka Dab on him, aka Cody Lashney Award.
I'm sure he's gonna hear.
It's the C3 Panthers podcast brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com every Tuesday night. Chop up the latest Panthers news and opinions. Got a new microphone. Tell me if you like the sound of it, if you can tell a difference or same. And follow me on cat_chronicles, CarolinaCatChronicles.com. You can find CK at CodeDizzle_Allen. And Greg, you didn't do the podcast this past Friday, did you?
I didn't. No, we got busy. So all of us, we're coming back. Yeah, it's for fun.
Trying to think of movies to watch real quick is there's actually a lot of good shit out right now. I watched the missing shit that you look with the girl that found the mom that got taken in Bolivia or whatever by her boyfriend. Saw that shit. That was good. The other one that's really fun is Ghosted. Another one that's very fun is Search, I think it's called. A lot of cool stuff. And there's a Fortune one with Jason Statham. It's real fun about them like being MI6 people or whatever. So that's it.
Yep.
Let's get out of here. Miss Cody. Until next week, keep pounding.